When Elon Musk pushed open the door of his ex-wife's house after 10 long years, he expected to find dust and empty rooms. What he found instead made his heart stop. The living room had been transformed into something he never imagined. Tables lined every wall, covered with dozens of brightly painted prosthetic arms and legs. Each one had a child's name attached to it. Photographs of smiling children covered the walls like wallpaper. And in the center of the room sat a worn leather journal with his ex-wife Celeste's handwriting inside. Elon's hands trembled as he picked up the journal. He had no idea what Celeste had been doing for the past 10 years. He didn't know about the secrets she had been keeping. He didn't know about the 300 children whose lives she had changed. And he definitely didn't know about the letter she had left for him, a letter that would change his life forever. But there was something else in that house. Something that would explain why a lawyer had sent him an urgent message to come immediately. Something about Celeste that would break his heart into a million pieces and then put it back together in a completely different way. What did Elon discover in that journal? Why had Celeste filled her house with children's prosthetics? And what was the devastating truth that the lawyer couldn't tell him over the phone? Stay with us through this entire story to find out what Elon saw that left him frozen in place, unable to move, unable to breathe. Because what happened in that house didn't just change one man's life. It changed the lives of thousands of children around the world. And it all started with one woman's quiet act of love that nobody knew about. Watch until the very end to discover the promise Celeste made Elon keep, and how one clay rocket ship would bring their broken dreams back together again. The blue Victorian house looked smaller than Elon Musk remembered. He stood on the cracked sidewalk of Willow Street in Austin, Texas, staring at the place he had not seen in 10 years. The oak tree in the front yard had grown taller. Its branches now touched the roof, creating shadows that danced across the faded paint. The white porch railing needed repair. One of the steps sagged in the middle. Everything looked old and tired. Elon's hands shook as he held the envelope. The letter inside had arrived 3 days ago at his office in California. It was from a lawyer named Mr. Patterson. The message was short but urgent. Your presence is required at 847 Willow Street, Austin, Texas. Legal matters regarding the estate need your immediate attention. Please come as soon as possible. Estate, that word had made his stomach twist. He had called Mr. Patterson immediately. What estate? What's happened? The lawyer's voice had been careful, too careful. I cannot discuss details over the phone, Mr. Musk. You must come in person. It's about the property and about Mrs. Rivera. Mrs. Rivera. No one had spoken that name to him in years. His assistants knew never to mention her. His friends had learned to stay quiet about the past. Even reporters had stopped asking about his first marriage after he refused to answer questions about it. Celeste Rivera, his ex-wife. The woman he had loved and lost because he had been too proud, too busy, too certain that his dreams mattered more than hers. Now he stood in front of their old house, and his chest felt tight. A bird sang somewhere in the oak tree. A neighbor's dog barked 3 houses down. The afternoon sun was warm on his face. Everything seemed normal, but nothing felt right. The front gate creaked when he pushed it open. He remembered that sound. Celeste had always meant to oil those hinges. Next weekend, she would say with a smile. I promise. Next weekend never came. There was always something else, a meeting he couldn't miss, a problem at the factory, a rocket launch that needed his attention. And then one day there were no more weekends together at all. Elon walked up the path slowly. His shoes crunched on the gravel. He noticed the mailbox was full. Letters and magazines stuck out from the opening. No one had collected the mail in days, maybe weeks. His throat felt dry. When he reached the porch, he saw it. The wind chimes were gone. Celeste had hung those chimes the first week they moved in. They were made of copper and glass, and they had driven him crazy with their constant tinkling. They're cheerful, she had insisted, laughing at his complaints. They make the house feel alive. Now there was only silence. Elon raised his hand to knock, then stopped. The door was slightly open, just an inch, maybe 2. Dark space showed through the gap. His heart began to pound harder. Hello, he called out. His voice sounded strange, too loud in the quiet street, no answer. He pushed the door gently. It swung inward with a soft creak. The smell hit him first, not bad, just old. Dust and closed-up rooms and something else he couldn't quite name. Something like sadness, if sadness had a smell. Elon stepped inside. and froze. The living room had changed completely. The furniture he remembered was gone, the soft brown couch where they used to watch movies, the bookshelf filled with Celeste's robotics journals, the coffee table where they had eaten pizza straight from the box on lazy Sundays. All of it gone. In its place was something he never expected to see. The room had been transformed into a workshop, but not the kind of workshop he knew from his factories. This was different, personal, intimate. Tables lined the walls, and on those tables were dozens and dozens of prosthetic limbs. Arms and legs, hands and feet, all different sizes. Some were tiny, meant for small children. Others were larger, for teenagers. Each one was painted in bright, cheerful colors, red with yellow stripes, blue with silver stars, green with cartoon characters, purple with rainbow swirls. Elon took a step forward, his mind struggling to understand what he was seeing. Tags hung from each prosthetic, attached with string. He leaned closer to read one. Emma, age 7, loves butterflies. Another said, Marcus, age 9, favorite color blue. And another, Lily, age 6, wants to be a dancer. The walls were covered with photographs, hundreds of them pinned up with thumbtacks overlapping each other like layers of memories. Children smiling, children running, children playing soccer and riding bikes and hugging their parents. And in many of the photos there she was, Celeste. Older now, her dark hair touched with gray. Laugh lines around her eyes, but the same warm smile he remembered. The same gentle way she looked at people, like they were the most important thing in the world. In every picture she was helping a child, fitting a prosthetic, adjusting straps, kneeling down to eye level, her hands gentle and patient. The children looked at her with trust, with hope, with love. Elon's legs felt weak. He grabbed the back of a chair to steady himself. On the table in the center of the room lay a leather journal, brown and worn from use. It was open, as if someone had just been reading it. Next to it sat a pair of reading glasses and a cold cup of tea. A skin formed over the surface. His phone buzzed in his pocket. A text from his assistant. SpaceX meeting in 30 minutes. They're waiting for you. He silenced the phone without looking away from the room. This house, this workshop, these children's smiling faces. It was like discovering a whole world that had existed without him. A world that Celeste had built alone while he was launching rockets and building cars and believing that he was changing the world. But she had changed the world too, right here, one child at a time, and he had known nothing about it. Elon walked slowly to the journal. He knew he shouldn't touch it. It felt wrong, like reading someone's private thoughts, but the lawyer had sent for him, had told him to come. That meant he was supposed to be here, supposed to see this. He reached out with a trembling hand and touched the journal's cover. The leather was soft, warm from the afternoon sunlight streaming through the window. What secrets did these pages hold? What had Celeste been doing for the past 10 years? And why had she left instructions for him to come here now? His heart hammered in his chest as he prepared to open the journal and discover the truth. Behind him, footsteps sounded on the porch. Someone was coming. Elon turned, and the world seemed to hold its breath, waiting to reveal what came next. But before he could see who was there, a memory crashed over him like a wave. The journal slipped from his fingers, falling back onto the table. He closed his eyes, and suddenly he was 12 years ago in the past, standing in a different room, looking at Celeste for the very first time. The tech conference in San Francisco had been boring. Elon had given his speech about electric cars and sat through 6 other presentations about things he already knew. He was ready to leave, to get back to work, when he saw her. She stood at a small booth in the corner of the exhibition hall. Above her head, a sign read, "Affordable robotics for medical use." Most people walked past without stopping. The big company booths had flashing lights and free coffee. Her booth had handmade posters and a smile. Elon had stopped walking. The woman was arranging prosthetic hands on a table. She had long dark hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She wore jeans and a blue sweater with a small hole in the sleeve. When she looked up and saw him staring, she didn't gasp or grab her phone for a picture like most people did. She just smiled. "Can I help you?" she asked. Elon pointed at the prosthetic hands. "Those designs are wrong." Her smile didn't fade. "Wrong how?" "The joint mechanism. You're using a simple hinge system. It won't give users enough control for fine motor skills." She picked up one of the hands and turned it over. "You're right, but a better system costs $6,000 more. These cost $800 to make. A child's family can afford $800. They can't afford $7,000. Elon frowned. So you're giving them inferior technology. I'm giving them something instead of nothing. She set the hand down gently. What's your name? Elon Musk. I know who you are, Mr. Musk. I'm asking what your name is when you're not trying to impress people. No one had ever said anything like that to him before. He felt his face grow warm. Just Elon. Nice to meet you, just Elon. I'm Celeste Rivera. She held out her hand. He shook it. Her grip was firm and confident. You really think my design is wrong? I think your design is practical, he corrected. That's different from wrong, but if you had better funding, you could make them practical and precise. Celeste laughed. It was a real laugh, not the polite kind people used at business meetings. If I had better funding, I'd be at a bigger booth. But this is what I have, so this is what I do. They talked for 2 hours. Elon missed 3 meetings and didn't care. Celeste told him about growing up in El Paso, about her younger brother who lost his arm in a car accident, about watching her parents work 3 jobs to pay for his prosthetic. She told him about studying robotics in college, about her dream to make prosthetics that every family could afford. My brother got lucky, she said quietly. Our family found a way, but I met so many kids at the hospital whose families couldn't. They just went without. 8-year-olds learning to live with 1 arm because the technology was too expensive. That's not right. Elon had built companies worth billions. He had plans to change transportation and energy and space travel. But listening to Celeste talk about helping children, he felt small. Small and impressed and interested in a way he hadn't felt in years. Have dinner with me, he said suddenly. She looked surprised. Why? Because I want to hear more about your work. And because I think you're the most interesting person at this entire conference. Celeste smiled that smile again. Okay, but I'm paying for my own meal. I don't need anyone buying things for me. Deal, Elon said. That dinner turned into another dinner, then coffee, then a long walk through Golden Gate Park where they talked until midnight about robots and dreams and what it meant to change the world. Celeste challenged every idea he had. She didn't care about his money or his fame. She cared about whether his ideas actually helped real people. You want to go to Mars, she said one evening as they sat on her tiny apartment balcony. That's amazing. But there are kids right here on Earth who can't walk. Maybe we should help them first. Why not both? Elon asked. Because both requires time and attention, and you only have so much of each. She looked at him seriously. I'm not saying your dreams are wrong. I'm saying don't forget the people right in front of you while you're looking at the stars. He should have listened to that warning. He should have understood what she was really saying. But he was in love, and love made him believe he could do everything. 6 months after they met, Elon proposed. They were in his workshop at SpaceX, surrounded by rocket parts and computer screens. It wasn't romantic. He didn't have a ring. He just looked at her and said, I want to spend my life with you. Celeste had laughed and cried at the same time. That's the worst proposal I've ever heard. Is that a yes? Yes, you ridiculous man, yes. They got married 2 months later in a small ceremony in Austin. Celeste wanted to be away from California, away from the constant noise of Silicon Valley. Let's have one place that's just ours, she said, where we can be normal people. They bought the blue Victorian house on Willow Street. It needed work, but Celeste loved it immediately. It has good bones, she said, running her hand along the old wooden walls. And it feels like home. For 2 years it was home, the happiest 2 years of Elon's life. They would spend weekends painting rooms and fixing the porch. Celeste set up a small workshop in the garage where she continued designing her prosthetics. Elon would sit with her for hours, offering suggestions, helping her solve problems. They talked about starting a company together, something that combined his resources with her vision. We could help thousands of kids, Celeste said one night, her eyes bright with excitement. Maybe tens of thousands. We could change the whole system. We will, Elon promised. As soon as things settle down at Tesla and SpaceX, we'll make this our priority. But things never settled down. Tesla was struggling, burning through money, facing bankruptcy. SpaceX had 3 rocket launches fail in a row. Investors were pulling out. The press called him a failure. Everything he had built was falling apart. Elon started spending more time in California. 1 week became 2, 2 weeks became a month. He would call Celeste every night, exhausted and stressed. "I'm sorry," he would say. "Just a little longer. I have to save these companies." "I understand," she would reply, but he could hear the sadness in her voice. The visits to Austin became less frequent, then rare, then almost never. Celeste tried to be patient. She worked on her prosthetics alone, sending him updates he barely had time to read. She told him about the children she was helping through local hospitals, about her ideas for making the designs even better. He said encouraging things, but his mind was always somewhere else. The house on Willow Street started to feel empty even when they were both there. They would sit at dinner in silence, too tired to talk, too distant to connect. The dream they had shared felt like it belonged to different people in a different lifetime. "I miss you," Celeste said one night. They were lying in bed, inches apart but feeling like miles. "Even when you're here, I miss you." "I'm doing this for us," Elon said, "so we can have the resources to help those kids, so we can make your dream real." "My dream was to do it together," she whispered, "not to wait while you do everything else first." He didn't know what to say to that, so he said nothing. And in that silence, something between them began to break. A voice pulled Elon back to the present. "Mr. Musk." He opened his eyes. He was standing in the workshop again, surrounded by the prosthetics and photographs. The memories faded like smoke, leaving him feeling hollow. An elderly woman stood in the doorway. She had gray hair and kind eyes and wore a simple dress with a cardigan. She looked at him with an expression that was both sad and gentle. "I'm Rosa Martinez," she said softly. "I was Celeste's assistant and her friend. I've been waiting for you." Elon stared at the woman in the doorway. His throat felt tight. "Where is Celeste? The lawyer said something about an estate. What does that mean?" Rosa's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't look away. "Perhaps you should sit down, Mr. Musk." "I don't want to sit down. I want to know what's happening." His voice came out harder than he intended. Fear did that to him. It made him sound angry when he was really just scared. Rosa stepped into the room and gestured to a chair near the table with the journal. "Please, this will be difficult to hear." Elon's legs moved before his mind agreed. He sat down heavily, his eyes never leaving Rosa's face. She pulled another chair close and sat across from him, her hands folded in her lap, calm and still. He noticed they were wrinkled and spotted with age, the hands of someone who had worked hard for many years. "Celeste passed away 2 weeks ago," Rosa said quietly. "In her sleep, peacefully." The words hit him like a physical blow. The room tilted, his vision blurred at the edges. "No," he heard himself say. "No, that's not possible. She was only 41. People don't just die at 41. She was sick, Mr. Musk, very sick for the past 2 years." "What kind of sick?" "A rare disease. The doctors had a long name for it, but Celeste just called it her tired blood. It made her weaker and weaker. There was no cure. They gave her medicine to slow it down, but—" Rosa's voice trailed off. She knew she didn't have much time. Elon put his head in his hands. The room spun around him. Celeste was dead. The words didn't make sense. They couldn't be true. He had always imagined that somewhere in the world she was living her life. Maybe she had remarried. Maybe she had children. Maybe she was happy. The idea of her being alive somewhere, even if he never saw her, had been a comfort he didn't know he needed. But now she was gone, forever. "Why didn't anyone tell me?" he asked, his voice muffled by his hands. "Why didn't she tell me?" "She didn't want to," Rosa said simply. "She said you had moved on with your life. She didn't want you coming back out of pity or guilt." Elon looked up sharply. "I would have come. If I had known she was sick, I would have been here." Rosa's expression was kind but firm. "Would you? Really? Or would you have sent money for the best doctors and gone back to your rockets and your cars?" The question stung because he didn't know the answer, and not knowing made him feel sick. He looked around the room again, at all the prosthetics, at all the smiling children in the photographs. What is all this? What was she doing? Rosa's face softened. This was her life's work. After the divorce, Celeste used her settlement money to start a nonprofit. She called it Second Steps. She made prosthetic limbs for children whose families couldn't afford them, all free, every single one. "Free?" Elon repeated. "How did she pay for materials, for her time?" "She lived very simply. She used most of her money for the project. She worked with local hospitals and schools to find children who needed help. Sometimes she would eat rice and beans for weeks so she could buy better materials for a child's prosthetic. Rosa smiled through her tears. She never complained. She said she was the luckiest person alive because she got to do work that mattered. Elon felt something crack open inside his chest. While he had been building billion-dollar companies and making headlines around the world, Celeste had been here in this small house, quietly changing lives one child at a time. And she had done it alone, without his help, without his money, without his grand plans to scale everything up. She had done it with love. How many children did she help? He asked. 307, Rosa said. I kept count. She fitted every single one herself. She knew all their names, their favorite colors, their dreams. She would visit them after they got their prosthetics to make sure everything fit right. Some of those children loved her like she was their own mother. Elon stood up abruptly and walked to the wall of photographs. He looked closely at them now, really looked. In picture after picture, Celeste was kneeling beside a child, her hands gentle as she adjusted straps or checked joints. The children gazed at her with such trust, such hope, and she gazed back with such tenderness. This was the woman he had told that her work didn't matter. The memory came back to him sharp and clear, like a knife to the heart. It had been their final fight. 3 years into their marriage, Elon had been home for 2 days and he was leaving again in the morning. Celeste had asked him to stay just one more day. There was a little boy at the hospital, she said, who was getting his first prosthetic arm. She had worked on it for 3 months. She wanted Elon to come meet him. I can't, Elon had said, not looking up from his laptop. The board meeting is tomorrow. If I'm not there, they might vote to replace me as CEO. 1 day, Celeste had pressed. Just 1 day, Elon. This little boy has been waiting so long. It would mean everything to him to meet you. He doesn't even know who I am. He knows you're my husband. I've told him about you, about how you care about helping people, about how you're going to help me make prosthetics for thousands of children. Elon had slammed his laptop shut. When, Celeste? When am I going to do that? I'm barely keeping my companies alive. Tesla is 3 months from bankruptcy. SpaceX just lost another rocket. I don't have time to play with kids at hospitals. Play? Her voice had gone very quiet, very cold. You think that's what this is, playing? You know what I mean. No, I don't think I do. Tell me what you mean, Elon. He should have stopped. He should have seen the hurt in her eyes and stopped talking. But he was tired and stressed, and the words came out before he could catch them. Maybe if your work mattered as much as you think it does, you wouldn't need me to hold your hand through every little milestone. The silence after those words was so heavy he could barely breathe. Celeste had stared at him like she was seeing a stranger. Her face went pale, her hands shook. Get out, she whispered. Celeste, get out of this house, now. I didn't mean. Yes, you did. Tears ran down her face, but her voice stayed steady. You meant every word. You think your rockets are more important than a child learning to hold a spoon with his new hand. You think your cars matter more than a little girl being able to ride a bike for the first time. You think I'm wasting my time. That's not what I said. It's exactly what you said, and now I see it clearly. You don't want a partner, Elon. You want someone who waits quietly in the background while you do important things. Well, I'm not that person. I never was. Left that night. He told himself she would calm down, that they would talk when he got back. But when he called 2 days later, she didn't answer. When he called again, her phone was disconnected. When he finally came back to Austin 3 weeks later, the house was empty except for his things, packed neatly in boxes by the door. The divorce papers came a month after that. He had signed them at 2 in the morning in a hotel room in Los Angeles. He was too proud to call her, too proud to apologize, too proud to admit he had been wrong. He told himself it was for the best. They wanted different things. They had different priorities. Some marriages just didn't work out. But the truth he had hidden from himself for 10 years was simpler and more terrible. He had broken her heart, and then he had walked away. She forgave you, you know. Elon turned. He had forgotten Rosa was there. Tears ran down his face, but he didn't wipe them away. What? Celeste, she forgave you a long time ago. She told me once that you were both too young, too ambitious, too stubborn to make it work back then. She said the marriage failed because neither of you knew how to balance love with dreams. She didn't blame you. She should have, Elon said bitterly. I blamed myself. Rosa stood and walked to him. She was small, barely 5 feet tall, but she seemed strong. She put a gentle hand on his arm. She left you something, a letter, and instructions. She made me promise to bring you here after she passed. She said you were the only person who could continue her work the way it needed to be continued. Why me? She should have hated me. Because despite everything, she never stopped believing in the man she married. The man who wanted to change the world. She just hoped you would remember that changing the world isn't just about big things. Sometimes it's about one child at a time. Elon looked down at Rosa's kind face. Where's the letter? In the journal, she wrote it on the last page, but Mr. Musk, Rosa's grip on his arm tightened slightly. Before you read it, you should read the journal itself. You should understand what these past 10 years meant to her. You should meet the children through her eyes. Can you do that? He nodded, not trusting his voice. Rosa patted his arm and moved toward the door. I'll make some tea. Take your time. There's no rush now. She's not waiting anymore. She left him alone in the room full of bright prosthetics and children's smiles and the ghost of the woman he had loved and lost and never properly mourned. Elon walked back to the table. His hands shook as he picked up the journal. The leather was warm from the sunlight. He opened it to the first page. The handwriting was Celeste's, neat and precise, with little loops on the letters. The date at the top was from 9 years ago, just a few months after their divorce. Day 1, it read. Today I helped my first child. Her name is Sophie and she's 6 years old. She lost her left hand in an accident last year. When I gave her the new prosthetic, she cried. Then she hugged me so hard I could barely breathe. She whispered, "Thank you for giving me my hand back." But I didn't give her anything. I just helped her take back what should have always been hers. This is what matters. This is what I'm meant to do. Elon was wrong. This work matters more than anything. The words blurred as fresh tears filled Elon's eyes. He turned the page and kept reading, stepping into the life Celeste had lived without him, one entry at a time. Day 43. Marcus came back today for adjustments. He's grown 2 inches since I last saw him. He showed me how he can throw a baseball now. His father cried watching him play catch. Sometimes I wonder if Elon ever thinks about this work. Then I remember it doesn't matter. This isn't about him anymore. It's about Marcus and his baseball games. Elon turned another page, and another. The entries went on for months, then years. Each one told a story of a child helped, a family grateful, a life changed. Celeste wrote about the challenges, broken equipment, lack of funds, exhausting 18-hour days, but she never complained. Every entry ended with something hopeful. He read until his eyes hurt, until the sun moved across the sky and the room grew darker. Rosa brought him tea that went cold on the table. He barely noticed. Journal showed him a Celeste he had never fully known. Strong, determined, patient beyond measure. She wrote about the technical problems she solved, the new designs she created, the partnerships she built with hospitals and therapy centers. She was brilliant. He had always known she was smart, but this was different. This was genius applied with love. Halfway through the journal, the entries changed tone. They became shorter, more tired. Year 7, today I could barely get out of bed. My arms felt heavy. My legs wouldn't work right. I went to the doctor. More tests, always more tests, but I can't stop working. Emma needs her prosthetic by next week. She starts school. She wants to write her name like the other children. Elon's hands clenched around the journal. She had been getting sick even then, 3 years ago, and she had told no one. Year 7, day 90, the diagnosis came today. A rare autoimmune disease. Big medical words that mean my body is attacking itself. The doctor said 2 to 3 years, maybe less. I sat in the parking lot for an hour after, crying in my car. Then I came home and finished Emma's prosthetic. She'll write her name beautifully. That matters more than anything else right now. He wanted to stop reading. The words hurt too much, but he forced himself to continue. This was his punishment, to see what she had endured alone while he was launching satellites and building factories and believing he was changing the world. Year 8, some days are better than others. Rosa has been a blessing. She helps me with the heavy work now. My hands shake too much for the delicate adjustment, but I can still design. I can still plan. I can still love these children. That's enough. Year 9, met a girl named Lily today. 6 years old, lost her leg to cancer. When I showed her the prosthetic, she asked if I could paint it purple with rainbows. I said yes. She asked if I could make it magical. I said all prosthetics are magical because they help people do impossible things. She smiled and said I was magic. I cried in the bathroom afterward. These children saved me as much as I saved them. Elon's tears fell onto the pages, smudging the ink. He didn't care. Let them smudge, let them blur. Nothing could blur the truth of what he was reading. Year 10, I'm so tired now. The medicine helps but not enough. Rosa wants me to stop working. The doctors say I should rest. But how can I rest when there's a waiting list of 47 children? How can I stop when Miguel is coming next week to get his new arm? When Sarah needs adjustments? When Tommy's family just called, desperate for help? The entries became sporadic. Days would pass between them, sometimes a week. Celeste was running out of time and she knew it. Year 10, month 8, I made a decision today. I'm going to contact Elon after I'm gone. Rosa thinks I'm foolish. She says he won't care, but I don't believe that. I remember the man I married. He had a good heart. He just forgot how to listen to it. Maybe this will help him remember. Maybe 300 children's smiles can reach him in a way I never could. Elon pressed his hand to his mouth, trying to hold back a sob. She had thought about him. Even at the end, even after everything, she had thought about him. Year 10, month 10, I'm writing the letter today to Elon. I don't know what to say. How do you speak to someone you loved a lifetime ago? How do you ask for help from someone you haven't talked to in 10 years? But this isn't about pride anymore. It's about the children. If he can take this work and make it bigger, better, available to every child who needs it, then my life will have mattered. Then these 10 years of silence between us will finally mean something. His hand shook as he turned to the last entry. It was dated 3 weeks ago. The handwriting was shaky, barely readable. Final day, I don't have much time left. Hours maybe, days if I'm lucky. Rosa is sleeping in the next room. I should wake her, but I want these last quiet moments to finish this journal, to say goodbye to all the children I've met. Sophie, Marcus, Emma, Lily, Miguel, Sarah, Tommy, and 300 more. You gave my life purpose. You gave my days meaning. You taught me that love isn't just a feeling. It's an action. It's showing up. It's doing the work even when you're tired, even when you're scared, even when you're dying. Whoever reads this, probably Rosa, probably my lawyer, Mr. Patterson, please make sure Elon gets this journal. Please make sure he understands. I don't want his guilt. I don't want his regrets. I just want him to continue the work. These children deserve someone who has the power to change systems, not just individual lives. Tell him I forgive him for the past. Tell him I never stopped believing he could be the man I thought he was. Tell him that love doesn't end when a marriage ends. It just transforms into something else. Something that can last forever if we let it. I'm tired now, so very tired, but I'm not sad. I got to spend 10 years doing exactly what I was meant to do. How many people can say that? I loved and was loved. I helped and was helped. I made a difference. That's all anyone can ask from life. Goodbye, my children. Goodbye, Rosa. Goodbye, Elon. Thank you for the dream we shared, even if we couldn't share it together. Maybe in another life we'll get it right. The entry ended there. Elon stared at the final words until they burned into his mind. Then slowly, carefully, he turned to the very last page of the journal. A letter was taped there, written on different paper in Celeste's shaking hand. His name was written across the sealed envelope. He sat there for a long moment, afraid to open it, afraid of what her final words to him would be. Would she be angry, bitter, disappointed? Finally, with trembling fingers, he opened the envelope and unfolded the letter inside. Dear Elon, it began. If you're reading this, then Rosa kept her promise and brought you to the house. Thank you for coming. I know it must be strange to be back here after so long. I want to start by saying I'm sorry. Not for the divorce. We both know that marriage wasn't going to work. We were too young, too driven, too stubborn to bend for each other. But I'm sorry for the 10 years of silence. I'm sorry I never reached out. Pride is a funny thing. It keeps us safe, but it also keeps us alone. I'm not writing to make you feel guilty. Please don't waste time on guilt. I'm writing because I need your help, and I think you need mine too, even if you don't know it yet. Look around this room. Look at the faces of the children in these photographs. This is my legacy. 307 children who can run and play and live full lives because someone cared enough to help them. But there are millions more children out there who need the same help. Millions who will never get it because the system is broken. You have the power to fix that system, Elon. You have the resources, the knowledge, the drive to take this small workshop and turn it into something that reaches every corner of the world. You've built rockets that land themselves. Surely you can build prosthetics that every child can access. I've left detailed plans in the files on the desk. Manufacturing processes. Supplier contacts. Everything you need to scale this up. I made it as simple as possible. Any good engineer could follow these instructions. But I want you to do it. Not because you're the richest or the smartest, but because I remember the man you were when we first met. The man who wanted to change the world not for fame, but because he genuinely believed things could be better. I think that man is still in there somewhere. I think he got lost in the noise and the pressure and the constant fight to prove himself. But I don't think he's gone. And if these children can't bring him back, then nothing will. Do this for me, Elon, not out of guilt or obligation or pity. Do it because it's right. Do it because somewhere deep down you still remember what it felt like to care about one person's problem as much as you care about humanity's future. I forgive you for everything. The fights, the words, the years apart, all of it. I hope you can forgive yourself too. We were both just trying to do good in the world. We just had different ideas about how. I never stopped believing in you, even when I was angry, even when I was hurt. I always knew you had greatness in you. I just wish I could have helped you see that greatness doesn't always look like rockets and factories. Sometimes it looks like a 6-year-old girl taking her first steps with a new leg. Sometimes it looks like a boy writing his name for the first time with a new hand. There's a clay sculpture on the mantle, a rocket ship with a heart-shaped window. I made it the same day you made one for your desk. Do you still have yours? I kept mine all these years. Two halves of the same dream. Maybe it's time to put them back together, even if we can't be. Thank you for the love we shared. Thank you for the dreams we built together, even if they didn't turn out the way we planned. Thank you for reading this letter, and I hope for caring enough to continue this work. The children are waiting, Elon. They don't know your name yet, but they will. And when they do, I hope they'll see the man I always believed you could be. With love and hope, Celeste. P.S. I kept the matching clay rocket ship I made. It's on the mantle. I never stopped believing you'd do extraordinary things, Elon. I just wish we could have done them together. Elon read the letter 3 times, then a 4th. Each word felt like a gift and a wound at the same time. She had forgiven him. After everything, she had forgiven him. But could he forgive himself? He stood slowly and walked to the mantle above the old fireplace. There, among a few small photographs, sat a clay rocket ship no bigger than his hand. It was painted silver with a small red heart-shaped window in the side. He picked it up carefully. It was rough and imperfect, made with love rather than skill. He remembered the day they made these. They had been married just 6 months. Celeste had found a pottery class at a community center. "Come with me," she had begged. "Let's make something together. Something that isn't about work or companies or changing the world. Just something that's ours." He had complained the whole time. His rocket ship kept collapsing. The clay was messy. He had emails to answer. But Celeste had laughed and helped him, her hands guiding his, and in the end they had both created these simple, silly little sculptures. "They're perfect," she had declared. "They're disasters," he had replied. "They're perfect disasters, just like us." He had kept his on his desk ever since. Through every office, every move, every change in his life. People asked about it sometimes. He always said it was just a paperweight. He never told them the truth, that it was a reminder of the one time he had sat still and made something that had no purpose except to exist, to be loved. Now he held Celeste's matching sculpture and he understood. These weren't just clay rockets. They were symbols of the dream they had shared. The dream of building something together, something that mattered, something made with love. He had built his half of the dream into a billion-dollar empire. She had built hers into 300 children's smiles. His was bigger, hers was better. Elon sank down onto the floor, his back against the wall, the clay rocket cradled in his hands. And for the first time in 10 years, he let himself truly mourn what he had lost. Not just Celeste the person, but Celeste the partner, the friend. The one who had seen through all his armor to the frightened man inside who just wanted to matter. Rosa found him there an hour later, sitting in the growing darkness, tears dried on his face, the clay rocket held against his chest like a treasure. "Mr. Musk," she said softly. He looked up at her. "I need to see the plans, everything she left. I want to understand every detail of how she did this." Rosa smiled, sad and knowing. "She knew you'd say that. Come, I'll show you her office. There's so much more to see." Elon stood, carefully placing the clay rocket back on the mantle next to a photograph of Celeste smiling at the camera. In the picture, she was surrounded by children, all of them laughing. She looked tired but happy, truly deeply happy. He touched the photograph gently. "I'll do it," he whispered. "I promise I'll continue your work. I promise I'll be the man you thought I could be." The house was silent, but somehow he felt like she heard him. Like somewhere in whatever came after life, Celeste was smiling. Rosa led Elon down the narrow hallway toward what used to be the spare bedroom. His feet remembered the path. He had walked this hallway 1,000 times during their marriage. Back then, this room had been empty, waiting for furniture they never bought, for plans they never made real. Now Rosa opened the door and Elon stepped into Celeste's office. Every wall was covered with filing cabinets, shelves, and corkboards pinned with papers. A large desk sat in the center, its surface organized with neat stacks of folders. Each folder had a label: material, suppliers, hospital contacts, manufacturing process, cost analysis. A computer that looked 10 years old sat in the corner, its screen dark. "She worked in here every morning," Rosa said, running her hand along the desk. 4 a.m. to 8 a.m., before the children started arriving. She said those quiet hours were when she did her best thinking. Elon walked to the nearest filing cabinet and pulled open a drawer. Inside were hundreds of files, each one labeled with a child's name. He pulled one out randomly. David Chen, age 8. Inside were measurements, photographs, design sketches, and follow-up notes spanning 2 years. Celeste had documented everything. She kept records of every child, Rosa explained. Not just for the prosthetics, but for their lives. She would call them on their birthdays, send them cards when they graduated to a new grade. She remembered everything about them. Elon opened another file, then another. Each one was a complete story of a child's journey from loss to recovery. Celeste's handwritten notes filled the margins. "Remember, Sophie loves purple. Make sure the straps have flowers. Marcus is shy. Let him take his time during fitting. Emma's grandmother will translate, speak slowly and clearly." She had cared about every detail. Every child was not just a project, but a person she knew and loved. "How did she afford all this?" Elon asked, closing a file gently. "The materials alone must have cost thousands per child." Rosa sat down in Celeste's desk chair. It creaked softly. She was very careful with money. She bought materials in bulk when she could. She negotiated with suppliers, traded services sometimes. A few local doctors donated their time for fittings. The community helped when they could, but mostly, Rosa paused, her voice catching. Mostly she just lived on almost nothing so the children could have everything. Elon felt his chest tighten. "What do you mean, nothing?" "She paid me very little. I only accepted because she needed help and I had a pension from my previous job. She drove a car that was 20 years old. She wore the same clothes for years. She ate simply beans, rice, vegetables from her garden. This house needed repairs she never made because that money went to prosthetics instead." Rosa pointed to a crack in the ceiling that Elon hadn't noticed. "That's been there for 5 years. The roof leaked in heavy rain. She put buckets on the floor and kept working. I begged her to fix it. She said she would after she helped just one more child. But there was always one more child." Elon walked to the window. Outside, the backyard was overgrown with weeds. The fence sagged. The garden Rosa mentioned was there, small and tidy, the only well-maintained thing visible. Even in her final days, Celeste had tended that garden so she could eat cheaply and give more to the children. "Why didn't she ask for donations?" he asked. "She could have started a fundraising campaign. People would have helped." "She tried in the beginning," Rosa said, "but she hated asking for money. She said too many charities spent more on fundraising than on actual help. She didn't want to become one of those organizations where executives made 6-figure salaries while pretending to care about children. She wanted every dollar to go directly to the kids." "That's not sustainable," Elon said. She knew that. She wrote about it in her plans. Rosa stood and pulled out a thick folder from the top desk drawer. "This is what she left for you, her complete vision for scaling up the operation." She handed him the folder. It was heavy, stuffed with papers. Elon opened it and began reading. The first page was a letter addressed to him, different from the one in the journal. This one was typed professional, like a business proposal. "Dear Elon," it read, "if you're reading this, you've agreed to help. Thank you. What follows is everything I've learned in 10 years of trial and error. I've made every mistake possible so you don't have to. Please learn from my failures." The next pages outlined her entire system: manufacturing processes she had refined over years, supplier relationships she had built, hospital partnerships she had established, design specifications for prosthetics that were both affordable and effective, cost breakdowns showing exactly how much each prosthetic required. But more than that, she had written detailed notes about the human side of the work: how to talk to frightened children, how to support grieving parents, how to fit prosthetics with dignity and care, how to follow up and ensure each child was thriving. "This is incredible," Elon whispered, flipping through page after page. "This is a complete blueprint for a global operation." "She spent the last year of her life writing it," Rosa said. "Even when she could barely hold a pen, she was writing. She was determined to leave you everything you needed to succeed." Elon found a section titled "Mistakes I Made, Please Avoid These." He read through Celeste's honest assessment of her own failures, times she had trusted the wrong suppliers, designs that hadn't worked, children she had failed to help in time. She didn't hide her imperfections. She documented them carefully so someone else could do better. At the end of the folder was a financial projection. Celeste had calculated that with proper funding and manufacturing scale, prosthetics could be made for less than $300 each. With Elon's resources and connections, she estimated they could help 10,000 children in the first year, 50,000 in year 2. Within 5 years, every child in America who needed a prosthetic could get one free of charge. "She dreamed big," Rosa said softly. "Just like you, she just dreamed quietly." Elon closed the folder and pressed it against his chest. "When did she write my name on the envelope? The one with the lawyer?" 3 months ago. She had good days and bad days. On her good days, she worked on these plans. On her bad days, she worried that you wouldn't come, that you'd send someone else, that you wouldn't care." Rosa's eyes were wet. "I told her you would come. I didn't know if it was true, but I told her anyway because she needed to believe it." "I would have come sooner if I'd known," Elon said, his voice rough. "I would have dropped everything." "Would you?" Rosa asked gently. It was the same question she had asked before, and Elon still didn't have a good answer. He walked to Celeste's desk and sat in her chair. It felt strange, sitting where she had sat every morning at 4 a.m., working while the world slept, caring for children who would never make headlines or trending topics. This was real work, quiet work, the kind that didn't come with awards or recognition, the kind that mattered most. His phone buzzed again. He pulled it out and saw 17 missed calls. Messages from assistants, executives, board members, everyone wanting his time, his attention, his decision on something urgent. He turned the phone off completely and set it on the desk. "Tell me about the day she died," he said to Rosa. "Please, I need to know." Rosa sat down in the chair across from the desk, the same chair hundreds of children must have sat in while Celeste fitted their prosthetics. It was a Tuesday morning. She had been very weak for days. The hospice nurse said it wouldn't be long, but Celeste insisted on getting up. There was a little boy coming for a fitting, Jamie, age 7. He was her last client. She worked the day she died. She wouldn't have it any other way. Jamie came with his mother. Celeste was so weak I had to help her stand. But when she saw that little boy, she smiled like nothing was wrong. She fitted his prosthetic arm perfectly. She painted it blue and silver because he loved astronauts. She told him he was brave. She told him he could do anything. Rosa wiped her eyes with a tissue. After they left, she collapsed. I helped her to bed. She thanked me for everything. She told me she was ready. She asked me to make sure you got the journal and the plans. She asked me to tell the children she loved them. Then she closed her eyes and went asleep. She never woke up. Did she suffer? No, the doctors gave her good medicine for pain. At the end, she was peaceful. She died in the house she loved after helping her last child. She died doing what she was meant to do. Elon put his head in his hands. He thought about his own life, so full of noise and movement and constant urgency. He had meetings scheduled months in advance. He had projects that would take decades to complete. He was planning to put humans on Mars, to revolutionize transportation, to change the course of human history. But when he died, what would people say? That he was rich, that he was famous, that he built incredible things. Celeste would be remembered by 307 children as the woman who gave them their lives back. Not as someone who talked about changing the world, but as someone who actually did it, one person at a time. Which legacy was more valuable? Rosa, he said, lifting his head. I want to meet some of the children, the ones she helped. Can you arrange that? Rosa smiled. I already have. They're coming tomorrow. 20 families asked to be here when you arrived. They wanted to thank you for continuing Celeste's work. They shouldn't thank me. I haven't done anything yet. You came, that's more than they expected, more than Celeste dared to hope for. Elon stood and walked back to the filing cabinets. He pulled open drawer after drawer, looking at all the names. Sarah, Miguel, Tommy, Aiden, Zoe, each one a life changed. Each one a child who could run, play, live fully because Celeste had cared. I'm going to need to stay here for a while, he said. I need to understand everything before I can scale it properly. Can you help me? As long as you need, Rosa promised. This was Celeste's life. I won't let it end just because she's gone. It won't end, Elon said firmly. I promise you, Rosa, I promise Celeste. I promise those 307 children. This work will continue, and it will reach every child who needs it. I'm going to make sure of that. Rosa stood and placed her hand on his shoulder. She knew you would. Even when I doubted, even when she worried, deep down she knew. She told me once, Elon is the most stubborn man I've ever met. Once he commits to something, nothing can stop him. I just need him to commit to this. I'm committed, Elon said. I should have committed 10 years ago, but I'm here now. And I'm not leaving until I understand every single detail of what she built. They stood together in Celeste's office, surrounded by 10 years of dedication and love documented in files and folders. Outside, the sun was setting. The room grew darker, but Elon didn't turn on the light yet. He wanted to sit in the gathering shadows and feel the weight of what he had discovered. Celeste was gone. That truth would never change. But her work remained. Her dream remained. And now it was his responsibility to take that dream and make it bigger than she ever could have alone. He thought about the clay rocket ships, both halves finally in the same house again. Two parts of the same dream, separated by pride and pain and 10 years of silence. Maybe it was too late to fix their marriage. Maybe it was too late to say the things he should have said when she was alive. But it wasn't too late to honor her, to become the man she had believed he could be, to prove that her faith in him, even after everything, hadn't been misplaced. I'll need a team, he said to Rosa. Engineers, manufacturers, logistics people. And I'll need to meet with the hospitals, the suppliers, everyone she worked with. I want to understand the entire ecosystem she created. I have all the contact information, Rosa said. Celeste kept very detailed records. Of course she did, Elon smiled sadly. She was always better at organization than I was. You had different strengths, Rosa said kindly. She built deep. You build wide. Together, this work can reach every corner of the world. That's what she wanted. That's why she chose you. Elon nodded slowly, together. Even though they would never work together again, even though she was gone, somehow they were still partners in this dream. Her foundation, his resources. Her compassion, his drive. Her 10 years of careful work, his ability to scale to global reach. Tomorrow, he said, when the families come, I want to hear every story. I want to know every child's name. I want to understand what Celeste meant to them. Can you arrange that? Yes, Rosa said. They'll be happy to share. They've been waiting to tell someone who will really listen. I'm listening now, Elon said quietly. Finally, I'm listening. Rosa nodded and left him alone in the office. Elon heard her footsteps fade down the hallway, then the soft sound of the front door closing. She was giving him space, time to absorb everything he had learned. He sat at Celeste's desk as darkness filled the room. He didn't turn on the light. Instead, he opened his laptop and began reading through the digital files Rosa had shown him. Spreadsheets, design documents, emails with suppliers and hospitals. Years of Celeste's work laid out in organized folders, but after an hour his eyes were too tired. His heart was too heavy. He closed the laptop and just sat in the darkness, thinking about the woman he had married and lost. Finally, he stood and walked back to the main room where the prosthetics were displayed. He turned on a small lamp in the corner. Soft light filled the space, making the painted prosthetics glow like strange, beautiful sculptures. Elon walked slowly along the tables, looking at each one. red with yellow lightning bolts, blue with silver stars, green with dinosaurs, pink with flowers. Each one was a work of art. Each one was made with such care. He picked up a small prosthetic hand no bigger than his palm. The tag read, "Lily, age 6, wants to be a dancer." Lily, Celeste had written about her in the journal, the little girl who had lost her leg to cancer, the one who asked if the prosthetic could be magical. Elon turned the prosthetic leg over in his hands, examining the mechanism. The joint was simple but clever. The materials were inexpensive but durable. The paint job was flawless, purple with rainbow swirls, exactly as Lily had wanted. This wasn't just engineering. This was love made physical. Love turned into something a child could wear and use and feel proud of. He set it down carefully and moved to the photographs on the wall. He studied each one, really looked at the faces. The children were so young, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. They should have been worrying about homework and playground games, not learning to live with missing limbs. But in every photograph, they were smiling. Really, truly smiling. Not fake smiles for the camera, but genuine joy. And in every picture where Celeste appeared, she was kneeling at their level, looking into their eyes, treating them with such dignity and respect. One photograph caught his attention. It showed a teenage boy, maybe 13 or 14, standing on a basketball court. He wore a prosthetic leg painted to look like a basketball. Next to him stood Celeste, much thinner than Elon remembered her, her face gaunt but still beautiful. They were both holding up a trophy. Elon unpinned the photograph from the wall and turned it over. On the back, in Celeste's handwriting, "Marcus wins the middle school basketball championship. 3 years ago, he thought he'd never play again. Today, he scored the winning basket. This is why we do the work. This moment right here." Marcus. Elon remembered that name from the journal. The boy who came back for adjustments because he'd grown 2 inches. The one who showed Celeste how he could throw a baseball. Elon's hands trembled as he pinned the photo back on the wall. These weren't just success stories. These were real children with real dreams, and Celeste had helped make those dreams possible. He walked to the center of the room where the journal still lay open on the table. Next to it, he noticed something he hadn't seen before, a small cardboard box taped shut with his name written on top in Celeste's handwriting. His breath caught. Another surprise, another piece of Celeste left behind for him. He picked up the box carefully. It was light, almost empty feeling. He found scissors in a drawer and cut through the tape. Inside was a collection of items wrapped in tissue paper. The first thing he pulled out was a photograph. It showed him and Celeste on their wedding day. They stood in front of the courthouse in Austin, both dressed simply, both grinning like fools. She wore a white sundress. He wore jeans and a button-up shirt. No fancy ceremony, no expensive reception, just 2 people in love promising forever to each other. Elon stared at their young faces. They looked so hopeful, so certain that love would be enough. How had they been so wrong? The next item was a napkin from the restaurant where they had their first date. Celeste had written on it in pen, "First dinner with the most interesting person I've ever met. I think I'm going to marry him." The date at the bottom was 12 years ago. She had kept it all this time. Through the marriage, through the divorce, through 10 years of separation. She had kept a napkin from their first date. Elon pressed it to his chest, overcome with grief so strong he could barely breathe. She had loved him, really, truly loved him. And he had thrown it away because he was too busy, too important, too focused on changing the world to see that he was destroying his own world in the process. The third item was a small USB drive. A note was attached, our conversations. I recorded some of our late-night talks about dreams and the future. I listened to them when I missed you. Maybe you'll want to hear them too. Maybe you'll remember who we were before we forgot how to be us. Elon's hands shook as he pulled out his laptop and plugged in the USB drive. It contained dozens of audio files, each one dated and labeled. Talk about Mars. Discussion about prosthetics for kids. Debate about whether technology makes us more or less human. Laughter at 2 a.m. about nothing important. He clicked on a random file. Static, then voices. "Do you really think we'll get to Mars in our lifetime?" It was Celeste's voice, younger, full of energy. "I know we will." His own voice, confident and certain. "Humans are meant to explore. It's in our DNA. We can't just stay on one planet forever." "But what about the people here? The ones who need help now?" Celeste's voice was gentle, not challenging, just curious. "We can do both," he heard himself say. "That's what you don't understand. We can reach for the stars and help people on Earth. We don't have to choose. I hope you're right, I really do. Because I think both matter. Getting to Mars matters, but so does helping a kid walk again. Promise me you won't forget that. I promise, his recorded voice said easily. I'll never forget what's important. But he had forgotten. He had broken that promise completely. Elon stopped the recording and closed his laptop. He couldn't listen to more. Not now. Maybe not ever. Those voices belonged to people who no longer existed. The young, idealistic couple who thought they could have everything and do everything and be everything to each other. The last item in the box was a letter, different from the others. This one was written on hospital stationery, dated just 1 week before Celeste died. "Dearest Elon," it began, and his vision immediately blurred with tears. "I'm writing this from my hospital bed. The pain is very bad today, but the nurses gave me good medicine so I can think clearly for a little while. I've been thinking about regrets, about the things I wish I'd done differently. I regret that we didn't fight harder for our marriage. I regret that pride kept us apart for 10 years. I regret that I never called you even once just to say hello. But I don't regret the work I did. I don't regret the children I helped. I don't regret choosing to stay here in Austin and build something small but meaningful instead of following you to California to be part of something big and impressive. We both chose our paths, Elon. Neither of us was wrong. We were just incompatible in our dreams. Some people can blend their dreams together. We couldn't. And that's okay. That's just how life works sometimes. I want you to know that I forgive you for the fight, for the words you said, for leaving and never coming back. I forgave you years ago, actually. Holding on to anger takes too much energy, and I needed all my energy for the children. I also want you to know that I'm grateful for the time we had. You taught me to dream bigger than I would have alone. You showed me that one person really can change the world. You inspired me to believe that my small work could matter on a large scale. The plans I'm leaving you aren't just manufacturing instructions. They're a map to redemption. Not because you need redemption, you've done extraordinary things with your life, but because I think part of you might still feel guilty about us, about me, about choosing your companies over our marriage. Let this work heal that guilt. Let these children show you that there are many ways to change the world. Let my dream become our dream again, even if I'm not here to share it with you. I'm not afraid of dying, Elon. I'm ready, I'm tired. My body is worn out from fighting, but I'm at peace because I know I lived well, I loved fully, I helped genuinely, I made a difference. Can you say the same? I hope so. But if you can't, it's not too late. You have so much life left ahead of you. So much time to be the person you want to be. Don't waste it on regrets. Don't waste it on guilt. Waste it on love. Waste it on helping. Waste it on being present for the people right in front of you, not just the future people you imagine helping someday. The children are waiting, my love. They don't know your name yet, but they will. And when they do, I hope they see the man I fell in love with all those years ago. The man who cared deeply, who wanted to help, who believed that everyone deserves a chance at a full life. Be that man, Elon, for them, for yourself, for me. With all the love I still carry, Celeste. P.S. I kept a piece of the oak tree from our backyard. The one we used to sit under on summer evenings. It's in a small box on my bedroom dresser. Plant it somewhere you'll see it often. Let it remind you that some things grow slowly and quietly but still reach great heights. That's what I hope this work does. That's what I hope you do too. Elon read the letter 3 times. Then he folded it carefully and held it against his heart. She had written this in pain, knowing she was dying, and her thoughts had been about him, about healing him, about helping him become better. She had given everything until the very end, and he had given nothing in return. The weight of that truth pressed down on him until he had to sit on the floor, his back against the wall, his body shaking with sobs he had held back for hours. He cried for Celeste. He cried for their lost marriage. He cried for 10 years of silence and stubbornness. He cried for all the children he could have helped but didn't because he was too busy being important. But mostly, he cried because he finally understood what Celeste had been trying to teach him all along. Success isn't measured in dollars or rocket launches or headlines. Success is measured in the number of lives you touch with kindness, in the children who smile because you cared, in the quiet work done when no one is watching, in the love you give freely without expecting anything back. Celeste had been successful in ways he was still learning to understand, and she had left him a roadmap to find that success for himself. He didn't know how long he sat there on the floor. Time felt strange, thick and slow. Eventually, his tears stopped. His breathing steadied. He felt empty but also strangely light, like crying had released something heavy he'd been carrying for years. He stood slowly and walked to the bedroom Celeste had mentioned in her letter. It was small and simple, a bed with a faded quilt, a dresser with a few photographs, no television, no computer, just a room for sleeping and thinking. On the dresser sat a small wooden box, polished smooth. Elon opened it carefully. Inside was a piece of wood about 6 inches long, cut from a branch. The bark was still attached. It smelled faintly of earth and rain, a piece of their oak tree. The tree that had been young when they bought the house. The tree that had grown tall while their marriage fell apart. The tree that had witnessed everything, their love, their fights, their separation, Celeste's lonely decade of work. Elon closed his fingers around the wood. It was smooth and solid and real. Tomorrow he would plant it somewhere meaningful, somewhere he would see it every day. And as it grew, he would remember this moment, this house, this woman, this choice to become better. He walked back to the main room and looked at the workshop one more time. The prosthetics, the photographs, the smiling children, the evidence of one woman's quiet heroism. "I see it now, Celeste," he whispered to the empty room. "I see what you were trying to show me. I see what matters. I see what I should have been doing all along." The house was silent, but in that silence, Elon felt a presence. Not ghostly or supernatural, just the sense that Celeste's love still lingered here, woven into every prosthetic she'd made, every child she'd helped, every dream she'd refused to abandon. He picked up his phone and turned it back on. Messages flooded in immediately, but he ignored them all. Instead, he called his assistant. "Cancel everything," he said when she answered. "All meetings for the next month, everything. Mr. Musk, you have a board meeting tomorrow and..." "Cancel it. Tell them it's a family emergency. Tell them I'll be unavailable. I don't care what you tell them. Just clear my schedule completely." "For how long?" "As long as it takes." He hung up before she could ask more questions. Then he called the CEOs of his companies one by one. He told them they were in charge. He told them to make decisions without him. He told them he trusted them to run things while he was away. Some were confused, some were concerned, but Elon didn't explain. He just told them he had something more important to do, something he should have done 10 years ago. When the calls were finished, he sat back down at Celeste's desk. He opened her plans and began to read them properly, taking notes, making lists, forming a complete picture of what she had built and what it would take to expand it globally. He worked through the night, fueled by grief and determination, and a growing sense of purpose he hadn't felt in years. This wasn't about building something impressive. This wasn't about proving he was smart or capable or visionary. This was about 307 children who had been helped, and about the millions more who were waiting for someone to care enough to help them too. As dawn light began to filter through the windows, Elon looked up from his notes. The prosthetics on the tables glowed in the soft morning light. They looked magical, just like Lily had said. And maybe they were, not because of the engineering or the materials or the clever design, but because they were made with love by someone who believed that every child deserved to run and play and live without limits. Rosa returned at 7 a.m. and found him still at the desk, surrounded by papers and files, his eyes red but his expression focused. "Did you sleep at all?" she asked gently. "No," Elon said, "but I understand now. I understand everything, and I know exactly what needs to be done." "The families will be here at 10, Rosa reminded him. "Good. I want to meet every one of them. I want to hear every story. And then I want to start building something that Celeste would be proud of, something that honors her work, something that proves her faith in me wasn't misplaced." Rosa smiled, tears in her eyes. "She would be so happy to hear you say that." "I should have said it 10 years ago," Elon replied. "But I'm saying it now, and I mean it with everything I am." He stood and stretched, his body stiff from sitting all night. Then he walked to the window and looked out at the overgrown backyard, at the small garden Celeste had tended, at the oak tree that had grown so tall. The sun was rising over Austin, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. It was going to be a beautiful day, a day for new beginnings, a day for keeping promises that were 10 years overdue. "Let's get ready," he said to Rosa. "The children are coming. And I want to be the man Celeste believed I could be when I meet them." Rosa nodded and moved toward the kitchen. "I'll make coffee and set out some chairs. The families will want to sit and talk." Elon helped her arrange folding chairs in a circle in the living room, carefully moving some of the prosthetics to make space. Each one he touched felt sacred, like handling precious artifacts from a temple. These weren't just medical devices. They were pieces of Celeste's heart, shaped into metal and plastic and hope. By 9:30, the house was ready. Coffee brewed in the kitchen. Cookies Rosa had brought sat on plates. The chairs formed a welcoming circle. Elon stood by the window, watching the street, his stomach tight with nervousness. He had given presentations to thousands of people. He had faced hostile investors and critical journalists, but the thought of meeting these children, these families who had loved Celeste, terrified him in a way nothing else ever had. What if they hated him? What if they blamed him for leaving her alone? What if they saw through him and realized he wasn't worthy of continuing her work? "They're here," Rosa said softly. Elon turned and saw the first car pull up outside. Then another, and another. Within minutes, the street was lined with vehicles. Families emerged, holding hands, moving slowly toward the house. Some children walked on prosthetic legs. Some had prosthetic arms. All of them looked nervous but excited. Rosa opened the front door wide and stood on the porch, greeting each family with hugs and tears and warm words. Elon stayed inside, watching through the window, his heart pounding so hard he could hear it in his ears. The first family to enter was a mother and daughter. The girl looked about 10 years old, with dark curly hair and bright brown eyes. She walked with a slight limp, her left leg clearly prosthetic. It was painted purple with rainbow swirls. "Lily," Elon whispered, recognizing the prosthetic from the photographs. The girl saw him standing there and stopped. Her eyes went wide. "Are you Mr. Musk?" "The Rocket Man." Elon knelt down so he was at her eye level, just like he'd seen Celeste do in all the photographs. "Yes, and you're Lily, the dancer." Her face lit up with the biggest smile he'd ever seen. "Miss Celeste told you about me. She wrote about you in her journal. She said you asked if your prosthetic could be magical." Lily nodded seriously. "She said all prosthetics are magical because they help people do impossible things. And she was right. Look." The little girl stepped back and did a perfect pirouette, spinning on her prosthetic leg without wobbling. Her mother gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. Clearly, this was something new. "I've been practicing," Lily said proudly. "Miss Celeste told me I could be anything I wanted, so I'm going to be a dancer, a real one." Elon's throat closed up. He couldn't speak for a moment. This child, who should have been limited by her loss, was spinning with such joy, such confidence. And it was all because Celeste had believed in her. "You're already a real dancer," he managed to say. "That was beautiful." Lily's mother stepped forward, tears streaming down her face. "Mr. Musk, I'm Jennifer, Lily's mom. I don't know if you understand what Celeste did for us. We had no money, no insurance, no hope. The doctors said Lily would need to learn to live without dancing. That prosthetics good enough for dance were too expensive for people like us." "But Miss Celeste said that was wrong," Lily interrupted. "She said everyone deserves to do what they love, no matter how much money they have." "She spent 3 months designing this prosthetic specifically for dance," Jennifer continued. "She studied ballet movements. She tested different joints. She made 7 prototypes before she got it perfect, and she never charged us a single dollar. When I tried to pay her, she refused. She said Lily's smile was payment enough." Elon stood slowly, his legs shaky. "Celeste was a better person than I'll ever be." "She loved you," Lily said simply. "She told me once. I asked if she had a family, and she said she used to be married to a man who wanted to go to Mars. She said you had different dreams, but they were both good dreams. She wasn't sad when she talked about you. She smiled." Words hit Elon like a physical blow. Celeste had smiled when she talked about him, even after everything, even after he had hurt her, even after 10 years of silence. More families entered the house. A teenage boy named Marcus arrived with his father. Marcus was tall and athletic, wearing a prosthetic leg painted to look like a basketball. He shook Elon's hand with a grip that was strong and confident. "Miss Celeste came to my championship game," Marcus said. "She was really sick by then. Could barely stand, but she came anyway because she promised she would. We won and I gave her the trophy. She cried. I'd never seen her cry before." Marcus's father put his hand on his son's shoulder. "Celeste gave my boy his life back. Before the prosthetic, Marcus was angry all the time, depressed. He thought his life was over at age 10 because of a car accident, but she told him his life was just beginning. She told him that losing his leg meant he had to be braver and stronger than other kids, and that would make him special. She was right. "I'm playing college basketball next year," Marcus said proudly. "Full scholarship. None of that would have happened without Miss Celeste. When my dad told me she died," his voice broke. "It felt like losing my leg all over again. Worse, actually." Elon couldn't hold back his tears anymore. They ran down his face freely as family after family shared their stories. Emma, now 11, who showed him how she could write her name beautifully with her prosthetic hand. Miguel, age 14, who played guitar with prosthetic fingers Celeste had designed to press the strings. Sarah, age 9, who did cartwheels across the living room floor on her prosthetic legs. Each child was a miracle. Each family was forever changed. And all of it, every bit of it, was because one woman had cared enough to help. Rosa brought out photo albums showing Celeste with each child over the years. Birthday parties she had attended, school plays she had watched, hospital visits when adjustments were needed. She hadn't just given them prosthetics and disappeared. She had stayed in their lives, loving them, supporting them, believing in them. "She remembered everything," said a mother named Patricia. "My daughter Sophie loved purple. Every year on Sophie's birthday, Celeste would send her something purple. A hair ribbon, a book, a stuffed animal she never forgot. She came to my baseball games," said a boy named Tommy. "Even when she got really sick, she'd sit in the stands wrapped in a blanket and she'd cheer louder than anyone. She made me feel like I was the most important player on the field. She taught me how to tie my shoes with one hand," said a girl named Zoe. "It took 6 weeks of practice, but she never got frustrated. She just kept showing me different techniques until we found one that worked. And when I finally did it, she cried and hugged me and said she was so proud." The stories went on for 2 hours. 20 families, 23 children, each one with a tale of how Celeste had changed their world. Elon listened to every word, memorizing names, faces, details. These were Celeste's children, her legacy, her gift to the world. Finally, when everyone had shared, a quiet fell over the room. The children sat close to their parents, some of them wiping away tears. The adults looked at Elon with expressions of hope mixed with worry. An older man cleared his throat. He had a kind face weathered by sun and time. "Mr. Musk, my name is Robert. My grandson Daniel was one of Celeste's children. He's not here today because he's at college now, studying to be a doctor. He wants to help other kids the way Celeste helped him." Robert stood, his hands clasped in front of him. "We're all grateful you came. We're grateful you're willing to continue Celeste's work. But we need to know, are you really committed? Or are you going to start this and then get distracted by your rockets and your cars and all the other important things you do?" The question hung in the air. Every eye in the room turned to Elon. Even the youngest children seemed to understand that this moment mattered. Elon stood slowly. He looked at each face, each child who represented Celeste's love made real. Then he spoke, and his voice was steady and clear. "I'm going to tell you all the truth, even though it makes me look bad. 10 years ago, I was married to Celeste. We loved each other very much. But I was so focused on building my companies that I forgot to focus on her, on us. We fought and I said terrible things. I told her that her work didn't matter as much as mine. I was wrong. I was so completely, terribly wrong." Several parents nodded, their faces understanding but not forgiving. He didn't deserve forgiveness, not yet. "I left," Elon continued. "I signed divorce papers and I never came back to this house. For 10 years I didn't call her, I didn't check on her. I was too proud and too stubborn. And while I was busy being important and building things that made headlines, she was here building something much more valuable. She was building hope. She was building futures. She was building love into every prosthetic she made." Lily's mother wiped her eyes. Marcus's father nodded slowly. "When I came to this house 2 days ago, I thought I was coming to handle some legal matter. I didn't know Celeste was sick. I didn't know she had died. I didn't know about any of you. And when I found out, when I saw this workshop and read her journal and learned what she had done," Elon's voice broke. "I realized I had wasted 10 years being the wrong kind of person. Celeste tried to teach me what mattered, but I wouldn't listen. I thought changing the world meant rockets and electric cars. She knew it meant helping you, helping your children, making sure every kid gets a chance to run and dance and play and live fully. He took a deep breath. Robert, you asked if I'm really committed. Here's my answer. I'm closing my laptop and my phone for the next month. I'm staying in Austin to learn everything about Celeste's work. I'm going to study every design, meet with every supplier, understand every detail of what she built. Then I'm going to use every resource I have to scale this up so that every child in America, and eventually every child in the world, who needs a prosthetic can get one free of charge. That's a big promise, Robert said quietly. I know, and I've broken promises before. I broke promises to Celeste, but I'm not going to break this one. I'm going to hire the best engineers. I'm going to build manufacturing facilities. I'm going to create a foundation in Celeste's name with enough funding to run forever. And I'm going to make sure that her work, her love, her belief that everyone deserves help, I'm going to make sure that never dies. Marcus stood up. Why should we trust you? It was a fair question, a hard question, the kind of question that deserved an honest answer. You shouldn't, Elon said simply. Trust has to be earned, so I'm asking you to give me a chance to earn it. Let me prove that I'm serious. Let me prove that Celeste's faith in me wasn't misplaced. Judge me not by my words today, but by my actions over the next months and years. He looked directly at Marcus. I can't bring Celeste back. I can't undo the 10 years I wasted. I can't take back the words I said that hurt her, but I can honor her memory by making sure her work continues and grows. I can make sure that 10 years from now, 100 years from now, children are still getting the help they need because Celeste Rivera cared enough to start something beautiful. Marcus studied Elon's face for a long moment. Then slowly he nodded. Okay, I'll give you a chance for Miss Celeste. Other heads nodded around the room. The families weren't fully convinced, Elon could see that, but they were willing to hope. They were willing to wait and see if he meant what he said. Lily walked over to Elon and took his hand. Her small fingers wrapped around his, trusting and warm. Miss Celeste said you were good at building things, so build this for us, okay? Build it so every kid like me can dance. Elon knelt down and looked into her bright, hopeful eyes. I promise, Lily, I'm going to build something that makes Celeste proud, something that helps kids like you all over the world. Good, Lily said seriously. Then she hugged him, her small arms tight around his neck. Thank you for coming back. Miss Celeste was waiting for you. Those words broke something in Elon's chest. Celeste had been waiting for him to understand, waiting for him to become the person she knew he could be, waiting for him to see what really mattered. And now she was gone, but her wait wasn't wasted. Because finally he understood. The family stayed for another hour drinking coffee, sharing more stories, letting their children play in the backyard. Elon watched them all, memorizing the sound of their laughter, the joy in their movements. These children should have been limited by their losses. Instead, they were thriving. And it was all because Celeste had refused to accept that money should determine who got help. As the last family prepared to leave, Jennifer, Lily's mother, approached Elon one more time. Mr. Musk, there's something you should know. Celeste kept a list. Children who needed help but that she couldn't reach before she got too sick. There are 47 names on that list. 47 families waiting, hoping. They don't know yet that Celeste is gone. They're still waiting for her to call them. She handed him a folder. Rosa gave this to me this morning. She thought you should have it. These children are Celeste's last wish. Can you help them? Elon took the folder and opened it. Inside were intake forms, each one filled out by hand. Names, addresses, phone numbers. Children ages 5 to 16, all needing prosthetics their families couldn't afford. At the top of the first page, in Celeste's handwriting, my heart breaks that I couldn't help these babies. Please, someone help them for me. I'll help every single one, Elon said, his voice thick with emotion. And then I'll help the thousands more who are waiting after them. I promise you, Jennifer. I promise all of you. Celeste's work isn't ending. It's just beginning. The families filed out slowly, each one stopping to thank him, to hug Rosa, to whisper prayers and hopes into the quiet house. When the last car drove away, Elon and Rosa stood on the porch together, watching the empty street. They want to believe you, Rosa said softly. But they've been disappointed before. By systems, by people who promised help and didn't follow through. Don't let them down, Mr. Musk. These families have already lost Celeste. They can't lose her dream too. They won't, Elon said firmly. I'm going to make this happen, Rosa. Not because I have to, but because I want to. Because for the first time in 10 years, I feel like I'm doing something that actually matters. Rosa patted his arm gently. Celeste would be so proud of you right now. She'd be proud of you too, Elon said. You stayed with her until the end. You helped her when I wasn't there. You loved her when I was too proud to. She was easy to love, Rosa said simply. She made the world brighter just by being in it. That's rare, that's precious, that's worth fighting to preserve. They went back inside together. The house felt different now, fuller somehow, even though the families had left. Their stories lingered in the air. Their children's laughter echoed in the walls. The love Celeste had given them had become part of the house itself, woven into its very foundation. Elon sat back down at Celeste's desk and opened the folder of waiting children. 47 names. 47 families hoping for help that Celeste could no longer provide. But he could. He had the money, the resources, the connections. He had everything Celeste lacked except the one thing that mattered most, her boundless love for every child she met. He would have to learn that. He would have to become someone who saw each child not as a project or a problem to solve, but as a person with dreams and fears and infinite potential. The way Celeste had seen them, the way she had seen everyone. Rosa, he called out, can you help me contact these families? I want to start right away. I want them to know that Celeste's promise didn't die with her. Rosa appeared in the doorway, smiling through fresh tears. Of course, that's exactly what she would have wanted, to know that her children would be taken care of. All of them, Elon said, looking down at the list of names. Every single one. And then we're going to make sure this never happens again. That no child has to wait and hope. That help is always available. That's my promise to Celeste. That's my promise to these families. That's my promise to myself. Picked up his phone and began making calls. To engineers, to manufacturers, to lawyers who could help him set up the foundation properly, to hospital administrators who could connect him with more children in need. The work was beginning, Celeste's work. Now his work too. They worked together even though she was gone. And as he made call after call, planning and organizing and building the framework for something that would outlast them both, Elon felt something he hadn't felt in years. Purpose. Real, genuine purpose. Not the kind that came from success or money or fame, but the kind that came from knowing you were helping someone who couldn't help themselves, from knowing that your work today would echo in a child's laughter tomorrow. Celeste had found that purpose 10 years ago and never let it go. Now it was his turn to carry it forward, to prove that her faith in him, despite everything, had not been misplaced. The blue Victorian house on Willow Street had been empty for so long. But now it was full again, full of hope, full of plans, full of the promise that love, once given freely, never truly dies. It just waits for someone to pick it up and carry it forward into the future. Elon worked through the afternoon and into the evening, phone call after phone call, email after email. He contacted his CFO and instructed her to set up a foundation with an initial endowment of $500 million. Make it independent, he said. I don't want it tied to any of my companies. This needs to outlive me. He called his head of manufacturing at Tesla. I need your best people in Austin next week. We're going to design a production line for prosthetics. Simple, efficient, scalable. I want us producing 10,000 units in the first year. He called material scientists at SpaceX. I'm sending you design specifications. I need you to find ways to make these components lighter, stronger, and cheaper. Use whatever resources you need. Rosa brought him dinner, a sandwich and soup, but it grew cold on the desk while he worked. She didn't complain. She just smiled and brought him fresh coffee, seeming to understand that he was a man possessed by purpose. At midnight, his phone rang. It was his assistant in California, her voice tight with stress. Mr. Musk, the board is very concerned. They need you at tomorrow's meeting. There are decisions that can't wait. They can wait, Elon said calmly. Or the board can make them without me. I trust them. But I'm not coming back to California for at least a month. Maybe longer. Handle it. He hung up before she could argue further. He stood and stretched, his back aching from hours of sitting. Through the window, he could see the oak tree silhouetted against the night sky. Its branches swayed gently in the breeze. He thought about the piece of wood in Celeste's bedroom, cut from the same tree. Tomorrow, he would plant it. He would give it a place to grow, to reach upward, to become something strong and lasting. Just like Celeste's work, just like the dream they had once shared. He walked to the bedroom and found the small wooden box on the dresser. He opened it and took out the piece of oak, holding it carefully. The wood was smooth and warm, aged and beautiful. It carried the memory of every summer evening he and Celeste had sat beneath that tree, talking about the future, believing they had forever. They hadn't had forever, but maybe forever wasn't the point. Maybe what mattered was the time you had and what you chose to do with it. Celeste had chosen to spend her time helping children. He had chosen to spend his time building companies. Both choices had value, but only one had created the kind of love he'd seen in those families' faces today. Only one had made children dance and play baseball and write their names with joy. Elon set the piece of wood on the desk next to Celeste's journal. Tomorrow. He would plant it tomorrow in a place of honor where it would grow strong and tall, a living memorial to the woman who had understood what truly mattered. He returned to the office and pulled out the folder Jennifer had given him. 47 children waiting for help. He opened to the first page and began reading. Name: Sofia Martinez, age 7, lost right arm in house fire, family income, $24,000 year notes. Sofia loves to paint but can't hold a brush anymore. Mother works 2 jobs, no insurance, needs help desperately. Elon stared at the words. Sofia loved to paint, such a simple dream, such an easily fixable problem if you had the right resources. He picked up his phone and dialed the number listed on the form. It rang 4 times. Then a tired woman's voice answered. Hello. Mrs. Martinez, my name is Elon Musk. I'm calling about your daughter Sofia. There was a long pause. Then, is this some kind of joke? No, ma'am. I'm very serious. I'm calling because Celeste Rivera had Sofia on her waiting list for a prosthetic arm. I know Celeste passed away, and I'm calling to tell you that I'm going to continue her work. I'd like to help Sofia. The woman's breath caught audibly. You're really Elon Musk, the one who makes rockets. Yes, ma'am. But right now, I'm more interested in helping your daughter paint again. Can we schedule a time for Sofia to come to Austin for a fitting? I'll cover all travel expenses, of course. Mrs. Martinez began to cry. We've been waiting for 6 months. Celeste told us she would help as soon as she could, but then we heard she was sick and we didn't want to bother her, and then we heard she died. I thought Sofia would never get help. I thought we'd lost our only chance. You haven't lost your chance, Elon said gently. Celeste left very detailed instructions. She wanted to make sure every child on her list got help, so I'm making sure that happens. Can Sofia come next week? Next week? Yes, of course. Mr. Musk, I don't know how to thank you. Sofia cries every night because she can't paint anymore. She says she has pictures in her head but no way to get them out. It's breaking my heart. She'll paint again, Elon promised. I'll make sure of it. Rosa Martinez will call you tomorrow with the details. She was Celeste's assistant and she'll coordinate everything. Thank you, Mrs. Martinez whispered. Thank you so much. God bless you. God bless Celeste's memory. When Elon hung up, his hands were shaking. One call, one family, one little girl who would paint again. It felt more significant than any rocket launch he'd ever overseen. He made 3 more calls that night, 3 more families, 3 more children who had been waiting, hoping, praying for help that seemed impossible. And with each call, with each parent's tears of gratitude, with each promise made and accepted, Elon felt something shift inside himself. This was what Celeste had felt every day. This connection to real people with real needs. This immediate tangible impact. Not abstract plans for humanity's future on Mars, but concrete help for a child today. Both mattered. He still believed that. But he finally understood why Celeste had chosen this work over following him to California. Because the hug of a grateful child was worth more than any amount of money or fame or achievement. At 2 in the morning, Rosa found him slumped over the desk, asleep on top of Celeste's files. She gently covered him with a blanket and turned off the lamp, leaving just a small light in the corner so he wouldn't wake in complete darkness. Sleep well, she whispered. You're finally becoming the man she always knew you were. Elon woke to sunlight streaming through the window and the smell of coffee. His neck ached from sleeping at the desk, but his mind felt clearer than it had in years. He found Rosa in the kitchen making breakfast. Good morning, she said with a warm smile. I hope you like eggs. I'm not much of a cook, but I can manage breakfast. Anything is fine, thank you. Elon sat at the small kitchen table. It was the same table where he and Celeste had eaten countless meals together, the same table where they'd had their worst fights and their best conversations. Rosa set a plate in front of him, scrambled eggs, toast, fresh fruit. Simple food, but it tasted better than any expensive restaurant meal he'd had in years. "I called 4 families last night," he said between bites, "from Celeste's waiting list. They're all coming to Austin next week for fittings." Rosa's eyes filled with tears. She would be so happy to hear that. Those children have been waiting so long. "I'm going to call all 47 families, every single one. By the end of this week, they'll all have appointments scheduled." "That's wonderful, but Mr. Musk, you should know, fitting prosthetics isn't just about measurements and mechanics." Celeste spent hours with each child, getting to know them, understanding their fears and dreams. The technical part was only half of it. The emotional support was just as important. Elon set down his fork. "I don't know how to do that part. I'm not good with emotions. I never have been." "Then learn," Rosa said simply. "Watch videos of Celeste working with children, read her notes, but most importantly, just be present, really present. Listen when they talk. Look them in the eyes. Treat them like they're the most important people in the world, because to them in that moment you are." That's what Celeste did, wasn't it? Made everyone feel important. "Every single person," Rosa confirmed. "From the smallest child to the hospital janitor. She treated everyone with dignity and respect. That's why people loved her, not because she was famous or wealthy, but because she made them feel seen." Elon thought about this as he finished his breakfast, being present, really present. It sounded so simple, but it was something he had failed at his entire life. His mind was always 3 steps ahead, planning, calculating, optimizing. He was never fully in the moment, but these children deserved someone who was fully present. They deserved what Celeste had given them, complete, undivided attention and care. "Will you help me?" he asked Rosa. "Will you teach me how to do this right?" "Of course," she said. "That's why I stayed. Celeste asked me to help whoever continued her work. She hoped it would be you, but she wasn't sure you'd come. The fact that you're here, that you're trying, that's already more than she dared to expect." After breakfast, Elon and Rosa walked into the backyard together. The morning was cool and pleasant, birds singing in the overgrown trees. Elon carried the piece of oak wood from Celeste's bedroom and a shovel they'd found in the garage. "Where should we plant it?" Rosa asked. Elon surveyed the yard. Near the back fence was a spot that got good sunlight but was also visible from the house. He walked to it and pushed the shovel into the earth. "Here, where we can see it grow from the kitchen window, where it can watch over the house the way Celeste did." They worked together, digging a hole deep enough for the cutting to take root. Rosa had researched how to plant oak cuttings, and she guided Elon through the process, adding rooting hormone, positioning it carefully, packing the soil gently but firmly. When the piece of wood was planted, they stood back and looked at it. It was just a stick in the ground right now, small and vulnerable. But with time and care, it would grow. It would become strong. It would reach toward the sky while its roots dug deep into the earth. "How long before it becomes a real tree?" Elon asked. "Years," Rosa said. "Maybe 10 or 15 before it's truly impressive. 20 or 30 before it's as big as the one in front. Oak trees grow slowly." Celeste said that in her letter, that some things grow slowly and quietly but still reach great heights. She was a wise woman, Rosa said softly, wiser than she knew. They stood in silence for a moment, both thinking about the woman they'd lost. Then Elon's phone buzzed. He almost ignored it, but Rosa gestured for him to check it. It was a text from his assistant. "Board meeting has been postponed. They said to take the time you need. Everyone is concerned but supportive. Just keep us informed." Elon typed back, "Thank you. Tell them I'm working on something important, something that matters more than I can explain right now." He put the phone away and looked at Rosa. "I need to see Celeste's grave, to pay my respects properly. Where is she buried?" Rosa's expression changed, became hesitant. "She's not buried, Mr. Musk. She was cremated as she requested. Her ashes are still here in the house. She left specific instructions about what to do with them, but..." Rosa paused, uncertain. "But what?" "She wanted you to scatter them. She wrote very detailed instructions about where and how, but I wasn't sure if you'd be comfortable with that. It's very personal." Elon's heart clenched. Celeste had wanted him to scatter her ashes. Even in death, she was reaching out to him, trusting him with something sacred. Where are the instructions? In her bedroom, in the top drawer of her nightstand, there's an envelope marked for Elon, final request. They walked back inside together. Elon's legs felt heavy as he moved down the hallway to Celeste's bedroom. He opened the nightstand drawer and found the envelope exactly where Rosa said it would be. His hands trembled as he opened it and pulled out the letter inside. It was written in Celeste's shaky handwriting from her final days, but every word was clear. "My dearest Elon," it began. "If you're reading this, then Rosa has told you about my ashes. I'm sorry to ask this of you. I know it's a difficult thing, but I couldn't think of anyone else I'd trust with this final act. I want my ashes scattered in 3 places. First, in the backyard of our house, under the oak tree where we used to sit on summer evenings. I want to stay with the house to watch over it and the work that will continue here. Second, at the beach in Galveston where you proposed to me. Do you remember? We were walking at sunset and you just blurted it out without any planning. It was perfect. I want some of my ashes there in the place where we promised forever to each other, even though forever turned out to be shorter than we hoped. Third, and most importantly, I want you to scatter the largest portion of my ashes at a place you choose, somewhere that matters to you, somewhere you go when you need to think or find peace. I want to be in your special place, Elon, not to haunt you or make you feel guilty, but to remind you that I'm still with you in spirit, that I'm still believing in you, that I'm still hoping you'll become the man I know you can be. Take your time with this. There's no rush. When you're ready, when you found the right place, scatter my ashes and say goodbye properly. We never got that chance when I was alive. Let's take it now. I love you, I always did, even when we fought, even when we divorced, even through 10 years of silence. Love doesn't end just because circumstances change. It just transforms into something else. Something quieter maybe, but no less real. Thank you for everything. Thank you for the good years. Thank you for the dreams we shared. Thank you for coming back, even though I'm not here to see it. Thank you for continuing my work. Thank you for being you. Goodbye, my love. Until we meet again, somewhere in whatever comes after this. Forever yours, Celeste. Elon read the letter 3 times, tears streaming down his face. She had loved him. Even at the end, even after everything, she had loved him. And she was asking him to let her go, to say goodbye, to find peace with their shared past. He looked up at Rosa, who stood in the doorway watching him with kind, knowing eyes. Where are her ashes? In the living room. On the mantel, next to her clay rocket ship and your photo from the wedding. They walked to the living room together. On the mantel, in a simple wooden urn, were Celeste's ashes. Next to the urn was the clay rocket ship with the heart-shaped window. And next to that was the photograph from their wedding day, both of them young and smiling and hopeful. Elon reached out and touched the urn gently. Inside was all that remained of Celeste's physical form. But her spirit, her love, her impact, those things were everywhere. In the children who danced and played, in the families who smiled again, in the work that would continue long after both of them were gone. I'll do it, he said quietly. I'll scatter her ashes as she asked, but not today. First, I need to help those 47 children. I need to get the foundation running. I need to prove to her, wherever she is, that her faith in me wasn't wasted. Rosa nodded. That's exactly what she would have wanted. Work first, goodbyes second. She always put the children before herself. She'd want you to do the same. Elon stood there in the living room, surrounded by evidence of Celeste's love and dedication. The prosthetics on the tables, the photographs on the walls, the journal documenting 10 years of quiet heroism, the urn holding her ashes, the clay rocket ships representing their shared dreams. This was the moment the title had promised, the moment he stood frozen, confronted by the magnitude of what he had lost and what he had found. Not frozen by shock or horror, but frozen by the emotional weight of understanding, by the realization that he had spent 10 years chasing the wrong things while the right thing was waiting here all along. Celeste had built a cathedral of love in this small house. She had created miracles one child at a time. She had changed the world in ways that would never make headlines but would echo through generations. And now it was his turn. His turn to take her small, beautiful work and help it grow. His turn to honor her memory by becoming the man she had always believed he could be. His turn to prove that love, once given freely, never dies. It just waits for someone to pick it up and carry it forward. I'm ready, he said to Rosa. I'm ready to begin." "Then let's begin," Rosa replied with a smile. "The children are waiting, Celeste's work is waiting, the future is waiting, and now, finally, you're ready to meet it." Elon took one last look at the urn, at Celeste's smiling face in the photograph, at the clay rocket that had sat on his desk for 10 years. Then he turned away and walked to Celeste's office to continue the work. The frozen moment had passed. Now it was time to move forward, time to build, time to love, time to prove that some promises, even when made too late, are still worth keeping. Outside, the newly planted oak cutting stood in the soil, small and vulnerable but full of potential. In 10 years, it would be strong. In 20, it would provide shade. In 30, it would be magnificent, just like Celeste's work, just like the foundation they would build, just like the love that would never die as long as someone carried it forward into the future. The blue Victorian house on Willow Street had witnessed so much love and loss, dreams and heartbreak, dedication and sacrifice. Now it would witness something new, redemption. A man finding his way back to what mattered, a dream refusing to die. And somewhere in whatever comes after life, Celeste Rivera was smiling. 3 months passed like water through Elon's fingers, fast and fluid, each day blending into the next in a blur of purpose and progress. The blue Victorian house on Willow Street became his headquarters, his home, his sanctuary from the noise of his former life. He slept in the spare bedroom upstairs, the one that had never been furnished during his marriage to Celeste. Now it held only a simple bed and a desk. He needed nothing more. Every morning at 5 a.m., he woke and went straight to Celeste's office to work on the foundation. Rosa arrived each day at 7 with coffee and breakfast. She had become more than an assistant. She was his teacher, his conscience, his connection to the human side of the work that Celeste had understood so naturally. The first month had been the hardest. Elon called all 47 families on Celeste's waiting list. Each conversation was difficult in its own way. Parents who had given up hope, children who had stopped dreaming, families who couldn't believe someone was really going to help them. He scheduled appointments, arranged travel, coordinated with hospitals, and then came the fittings. The first child was Sophia, the 7-year-old who loved to paint. She arrived with her mother on a Tuesday morning, nervous and quiet. Elon had prepared everything, measurements taken from her medical records, a prosthetic arm designed specifically for fine motor control, paint supplies waiting for after the fitting. But when Sophia walked into the workshop and saw all the colorful prosthetics on the tables, she burst into tears. "What's wrong?" Elon asked, panicking. He looked at Rosa for help. Rosa knelt beside Sophia gently. "Mija, why are you crying?" "They're so beautiful," Sophia whispered through her tears. "I thought prosthetics were ugly metal things, but these are like art, like someone cared enough to make them pretty." "Someone did care," Rosa said softly, glancing at the photographs of Celeste on the wall. "And someone still does. Mr. Musk made yours extra special because your mama said you love painting." Elon brought out Sophia's prosthetic. He and his team had spent 2 weeks perfecting it. The arm was lightweight, with a specially designed hand that could grip a paintbrush with precision. And they had painted it, not with cartoon characters or simple colors, but with an actual painted scene of flowers and butterflies that Sophia's mother said were her favorites. Sophia's eyes went wide. "That's for me." "It's yours," Elon said. "And if you don't like the design, we can repaint it, whatever you want." "It's perfect," Sophia breathed. "It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." Fitting the prosthetic took an hour. Elon's hands shook the entire time. He was terrified of hurting her, of doing something wrong, of failing this little girl who had been waiting so long for help. But Rosa guided him through each step, and Sophia was patient and brave. When the prosthetic was finally attached and adjusted, Sophia stood and looked at her new arm. She moved the fingers slowly, testing each joint. Then she walked to the table where Elon had set up paints and paper. She picked up a brush with her prosthetic hand. Her first few strokes were shaky, uncertain, but then something clicked. The muscle memory returned. The joy of creation flooded back. Sophia painted for 20 minutes straight, lost in her own world of colors and imagination. When she finally stepped back, she had created a picture of a girl with butterfly wings flying through a garden. "That's me," she said, pointing to the painting. "That's me flying." Miss Celeste told Mama on the phone once that losing my arm didn't mean I couldn't fly. She said I just needed the right wings. I think she was right. Elon had to turn away so Sophia wouldn't see him crying. This little girl who had lost so much was painting herself as someone who could fly, because Celeste had believed in her, and now because he was trying to believe in her too. Sophia's mother hugged Elon so hard he could barely breathe. "Thank you," she kept saying. "Thank you, thank you, thank you. You gave me my daughter back." But Elon knew the truth. He hadn't given Sophia anything. He had just helped her reclaim what should have always been hers, the ability to create, to dream, to fly. The other children came week by week. Each fitting was its own small miracle. Marcus returned for an updated prosthetic leg. He had grown 3 inches since Celeste's last fitting. Emma needed adjustments to her prosthetic hand. Miguel wanted a second prosthetic arm specifically designed for guitar playing, and the new children arrived. A 5-year-old boy named James who wanted to play catch with his dad. A 9-year-old girl named Ashley who dreamed of becoming a gymnast. A teenager named David who just wanted to drive a car like his friends. Each child taught Elon something. James taught him about patience. The fitting took 3 hours because James was scared and needed time to trust. Ashley taught him about determination. She did a backflip on her new prosthetic legs the same day she got them, even though everyone told her to wait. David taught him about dignity. The teenager didn't want a colorful prosthetic, just something that looked normal so he wouldn't stand out. Elon learned to kneel at eye level like Celeste had done. He learned to listen more than he talked. He learned to let the children tell him what they needed instead of assuming he knew best. He learned that sometimes the most important part of the fitting wasn't the prosthetic at all. It was the hug afterward, or the encouragement, or simply being present for someone who felt broken and helping them feel whole again. Rosa watched his transformation with quiet pride. "You're getting good at this," she said one evening after a particularly emotional fitting with twin sisters who had both lost legs in an accident. "I'm terrible at this," Elon replied. "I cry at every fitting. I lose sleep worrying about whether the prosthetics will work properly. I'm nowhere near as good as Celeste was." "Celeste cried at fittings too," Rosa said gently. "She lost sleep worrying too. The difference between a good person and a great person isn't whether they feel the weight of responsibility, it's whether they carry it anyway." Elon thought about that often in the weeks that followed, carrying the weight, showing up even when it was hard, being present even when it hurt. He threw himself into expanding the operation. He hired a team of engineers who specialized in prosthetics. He worked with manufacturers to create production lines that could make high-quality prosthetics at a fraction of the normal cost. He partnered with hospitals across Texas, then across the country, to identify children who needed help. The foundation, officially named the Celeste Rivera Foundation for Children's Prosthetics, was growing faster than he had imagined possible. By the end of the 2nd month, they had helped 93 children. By the end of the 3rd month, 217. Local news stations heard about the work and wanted to do stories. National media reached out for interviews. Everyone wanted to talk to Elon Musk about his new charitable project, but Elon refused all interviews. "This isn't about me," he told his PR team. "This is about Celeste and the children. If the media wants to cover the story, they need to talk to the families. Let them tell you what this means. Let them explain why it matters." So the journalists interviewed parents and children instead. They talked to Jennifer about how Lily could dance now. They talked to Marcus's father about the basketball scholarship. They talked to Sophia's mother about paintings that covered every wall of their apartment. And slowly, the story spread. Not because of Elon's fame, but because of the children's joy. Other families reached out, desperate for help. Donations poured in from people who wanted to support the work. Other engineers and doctors volunteered their time. The movement was growing. What Celeste had started alone in a small house was becoming something that could reach millions of children worldwide. But Elon never forgot where it started. Every evening, he would sit in the living room of the blue Victorian house and read entries from Celeste's journal. He would look at the photographs of children she had helped. He would hold the clay rocket ships and remember the dreams they had shared. And he would talk to her, out loud as if she could hear him. "I helped a little boy today named Christopher. He's 6 years old and he lost both hands in an accident. He was so brave during the fitting, Celeste. He didn't cry once, and when we were done, he asked if he could hug me. He wrapped his new prosthetic arms around my neck and whispered, 'Thank you for my hands.' I had to leave the room because I was crying so hard." We're up to 217 children now. Can you believe that? In just 3 months. And we have funding to help 10,000 in the first year. Your dream is coming true. I wish you were here to see it. I met with the governor today. He wants to make prosthetics free for all children in Texas. He said your work inspired him. He said if one woman working alone could help 300 children, then a whole state working together could help thousands. You started something bigger than you knew, Celeste. You started a revolution of compassion. Rosa would sometimes find him in the living room, talking to the empty air, tears on his face. She never interrupted. She understood that these conversations were how Elon processed his grief, how he stayed connected to the woman who had changed his life even in death. One evening, 3 months to the day after Elon first arrived at the house, Rosa knocked on his office door. "Mr. Musk, there's someone here to see you, someone special." Elon looked up from his computer, exhausted from 14 hours of work. "Can it wait? I'm trying to finalize the contracts for the manufacturing facility." "It can't wait," Rosa said firmly. "Trust me, you need to meet this person." Curious, Elon followed Rosa to the living room. Standing there was a young man, maybe 22 or 23 years old. He was tall and confident, wearing a college sweatshirt, and his left arm from the elbow down was a prosthetic painted to look like circuit boards and wiring. "Mr. Musk," the young man said, extending his prosthetic hand. "My name is Daniel Chen. I was one of Miss Celeste's first children." Elon shook his hand, confused. "Daniel Chen, I've read about you in Celeste's journal. You were 8 years old when she helped you." "7, actually. I lost my arm in a car accident. My family had no money for a prosthetic. The doctors said I'd have to learn to live one-handed. But then Miss Celeste found us. She fitted me with a prosthetic for free. She checked on me every few months for years. She came to my middle school graduation, my high school graduation. She was like a second mother to me." Daniel's eyes filled with tears. "When I heard she died, I felt like the world lost its best person. And then I heard you were continuing her work and I had to come see it for myself. I had to know if it was real, if her dream was really going to live on." "It's real," Elon said quietly. "We've helped over 200 children in 3 months, and we're just getting started." Daniel looked around the room at the prosthetics, at the photographs, at the evidence of work continuing. "This is incredible. Miss Celeste would be so proud. But Mr. Musk, I didn't just come here to look. I came here to help. I'm a biomedical engineering student at UT Austin. I graduate next year. I want to work for the foundation. I want to design prosthetics for the next generation of kids, the way Miss Celeste designed mine for me." Elon felt his throat tighten. "You want to work here? You could work anywhere. Any company would hire you. Why would you want to work for a nonprofit?" Daniel smiled, and in that smile, Elon saw an echo of Celeste's warmth. "Because Miss Celeste taught me that the best life isn't the one where you make the most money. It's the one where you help the most people. She changed my life, Mr. Musk. Now I want to change other kids' lives. That's what success looks like. That's what matters." Rosa wiped tears from her eyes. Even she hadn't known Daniel was coming. "You're hired," Elon said immediately. "Actually, you're more than hired. I want you to lead the design team. You understand what these children need in a way I never can. You've lived it. You can make sure we're always designing with the children's real needs in mind, not just what we think they need." Daniel's face lit up. "Really? You'd trust me with that much responsibility?" "Celeste trusted you enough to help you when you were 7. I think I can trust you now that you're 22. Elon held out his hand again. "Welcome to the team, Daniel. Welcome to Celeste's family." They shook hands, and in that moment, Elon understood something profound. This was how Celeste's work would truly continue, not just through his money and resources, but through the children she had helped growing up to help others. The circle of compassion expanding outward, generation after generation. Daniel became a fixture at the house. He moved to Austin and worked alongside Elon and Rosa, bringing fresh ideas and genuine understanding of what children with prosthetics needed. Other former patients of Celeste's heard about the foundation and reached out to volunteer. Some offered their time, others offered their skills. All of them wanted to honor the woman who had helped them. The Blue Victorian House was no longer just a workshop. It was becoming a movement, a community, a living memorial to one woman's belief that every child deserved help, regardless of their family's wealth. On a warm evening in late spring, Elon sat on the back porch watching the sun set. The oak cutting he had planted was showing its first tiny leaves, signs of life, signs of growth. Next to him sat Rosa, knitting quietly. Daniel was inside, working on a new prosthetic design for a 4-year-old girl who wanted to play piano. "I think it's time," Elon said quietly. Rosa looked up from her knitting. "Time for what?" "To scatter Celeste's ashes. She asked me to do it, and I've been putting it off because I was focused on the work. But the work is stable now. The foundation is running. The children are being helped. I think I'm ready to say goodbye properly." Rosa set down her knitting and took Elon's hand. Her grip was warm and firm. "Where will you scatter them?" "The backyard here under the oak tree, like she asked, and the beach in Galveston where I proposed. But the third place," Elon paused, thinking. "I'm going to scatter her ashes at SpaceX at the launch pad where we test rockets, because that's my special place. That's where I go when I need to think clearly. And I want her there with me, reminding me that reaching for the stars doesn't mean forgetting the people on Earth." Rosa smiled through tears. "She would love that. She always said your work was important. She just wanted you to remember that all work is important if it helps people." "I remember now," Elon said. "Finally, I remember." They sat in comfortable silence as the sky turned from blue to pink to deep purple. Inside the house, Daniel laughed at something on his computer. Somewhere in the neighborhood, children played in their yards. Life continued, beautiful and ordinary and precious. "Thank you for staying, Rosa," Elon said. "Thank you for teaching me how to do this right. I couldn't have done any of it without you." "You would have figured it out," Rosa said kindly. "You're stubborn like Celeste was. Once you commit to something, nothing stops you. You just needed to commit to the right things." "I'm committed now, to the foundation, to the children, to honoring Celeste's memory by being better than I was." "I know you are, and that's all she ever wanted. Not for you to be perfect, but for you to try, for you to care, for you to show up." Elon thought about all the children he had met over the past 3 months, all the smiles, all the tears of joy, all the moments when a child realized they could do something they thought was lost forever. Those moments were worth more than every rocket he'd launched, every car he'd sold, every headline he'd made. Celeste had known that. She had tried to teach him. And now, 10 years too late but not too late to matter, he finally understood. The promise he made to her, standing in this workshop 3 months ago, was being kept. The work was continuing. The dream was growing. The love she had given so freely was multiplying, spreading to every child who needed it, every family who had lost hope. Celeste Rivera's legacy wasn't just 307 children helped during her lifetime. It was thousands more who would be helped because she had believed in something bigger than herself. Because she had planted seeds of compassion that were now growing into a forest of hope. And somewhere in whatever comes after life, Celeste was still smiling, still believing, still loving the man she had married and lost and never stopped hoping would find his way back to what mattered. The blue Victorian house stood quiet in the Texas evening, a lighthouse of love in a world that often felt dark. Inside its walls, the work continued. Outside its walls, the impact spread. And the man who had once thought changing the world meant rockets and factories and fame was learning that sometimes the biggest change comes from the smallest acts of kindness. One child at a time, one family at a time, one promise kept at a time. The morning arrived cool and clear, perfect for what Elon had planned. He woke before dawn and sat at Celeste's desk, looking at the wooden urn that held her ashes. For 3 months, it had sat on the mantel in the living room. Now it was time to let her go. Rosa arrived early, as she always did. She found Elon in the kitchen making coffee with shaking hands. "Today's the day?" she asked gently. He nodded, not trusting his voice. "I'll come with you to all 3 places. You shouldn't do this alone." "Thank you," Elon managed to say. "I don't think I could do it alone." Daniel arrived at 7, having heard from Rosa what was happening. "I'd like to come too, if that's okay. Miss Celeste was important to me. I want to be there to say goodbye." Oh, the 3 of them prepared for the journey. Elon carefully divided Celeste's ashes into 3 containers, as her letter had instructed. The smallest portion for Galveston, a larger portion for the backyard, And the largest for SpaceX, they started in the backyard of the blue Victorian house, under the oak tree where Elon and Celeste had spent so many summer evenings talking about their dreams. The tree's branches swayed gently in the morning breeze, creating patterns of light and shadow on the grass below. Elon knelt on the ground, holding the container of ashes. Rosa and Daniel stood a respectful distance away, giving him space but offering silent support. "Celeste," Elon said, his voice breaking immediately. "I'm here. I'm finally here in the place you loved most. This house, this yard, this tree, they were your sanctuary, your home, and now they'll hold a part of you forever." He opened the container and slowly poured the ashes around the base of the oak tree. The fine gray powder settled into the grass and soil, becoming part of the earth that had sustained Celeste's garden, that had fed the tree they used to sit under. "I'm sorry I left. I'm sorry I stayed away for 10 years. I'm sorry I was too proud to come back and tell you that you were right, that your work mattered more than mine ever did, that helping one child was worth more than launching 1,000 rockets." Tears fell onto the ground, mixing with the ashes. Elon didn't try to stop them. "But I want you to know that I'm keeping my promise. The foundation is growing. We're helping children every day. Daniel is here, remember him. The little boy you helped 15 years ago. He's a man now and he's designing prosthetics for other kids. Your work is living on, Celeste. It's growing. It's becoming everything you dreamed it could be." He pressed his hand to the ground, feeling the earth beneath his palm. "Rest here. Watch over this house. Watch over the children who will come here for help. Be part of this place that you made so full of love." Rosa stepped forward and knelt beside him. She placed a small bouquet of wildflowers on the ground. "Thank you, Celeste, for everything you taught us. Thank you for showing us what real strength looks like, what real love looks like. You made the world better just by being in it." Daniel added his own flowers to the pile. "Thank you for giving me my life back, Miss Celeste, for believing in a scared 7-year-old boy, for checking on me for years, for teaching me that losing something doesn't mean you've lost everything. I'll spend the rest of my life helping other kids the way you helped me. I promise." They stood together in silence, letting the morning sun warm their faces, letting the breeze carry their words up into the branches of the oak tree. After a long while, Elon stood and wiped his eyes. "The next place," he said quietly. They drove to Galveston, a 3-hour journey to the Texas coast. Elon was quiet the entire drive, lost in memories. Rosa sat in the front passenger seat, occasionally reaching over to pat his arm. Daniel sat in the back, respectful of the grief filling the car. The beach was nearly empty when they arrived. A few early morning joggers, a man walking his dog. The waves crashed steadily against the sand, eternal and patient. Elon walked to the spot where he had proposed to Celeste 12 years ago. He remembered it clearly, the way the sunset had painted the sky orange and pink, the way Celeste had laughed at his awkward, unplanned proposal, the way they had stood in the surf together afterward, holding hands and planning a future that never quite happened the way they imagined. He took off his shoes and walked into the water, letting the waves wash over his feet. The second container of ashes felt heavier than it should, as if it contained not just Celeste's physical remains but the weight of all their lost years. "We stood right here," he said to Rosa and Daniel, who had followed him to the water's edge. "I didn't have a ring. I didn't have a plan. I just looked at her and knew I wanted to spend my life with her, so I asked, and she said yes." He opened the container and let the wind take some of the ashes, scattering them across the waves. The rest he poured into the water, watching as the tide carried them out to sea. "I did spend my life with you, Celeste," he said, his words nearly lost in the sound of the waves. "Just not in the way we planned, not in the way we should have, but you've been with me every day since I found that workshop. You've been teaching me, guiding me, showing me what matters. You've been my conscience and my inspiration." A large wave rolled in, soaking his pants up to his knees. He didn't move. He just stood there, letting the ocean take Celeste's ashes out into the vastness of the sea. "I loved you. I love you still. And I'm sorry I wasn't brave enough to tell you that when you were alive. I'm sorry I let pride keep us apart. I'm sorry for all the things I didn't say and should have." Rosa waded into the water beside him, not caring that her dress was getting wet. "She knew, Mr. Musk. She knew you loved her. She wrote it in her journal, in her letters. She knew." "Then why didn't she call me? Why didn't she tell me she was sick? I could have helped. I could have been here." Because she loved you too much to let you come back out of pity, Rosa said gently. She wanted you to come back because you understood, not because you felt guilty. And in the end, that's exactly what happened. You came back and you understood. That's what she was waiting for. Elon let out a sob that had been building in his chest for 3 months. He stood in the ocean waves and cried for the woman he had loved and lost, for the years they had wasted, for all the conversations they would never have. He cried until he had no tears left, until his body was empty and exhausted. Daniel stood on the shore, giving them privacy but ready to help if needed. He understood grief. He had felt it when Celeste died. He was feeling it again now, watching this man finally process the loss he had been too busy to fully feel. When Elon finally walked out of the water, his clothes were soaked and his face was red and swollen, but his eyes were clearer than they had been in months. There was a lightness to him that hadn't been there before. "One more place," he said, "the most important one." They drove to SpaceX headquarters outside of Austin. It was Saturday, so the facility was mostly empty. Elon had arranged for security to let them through. They drove past the main buildings, past the testing facilities, out to the launch pad where rockets stood waiting for their turn to touch the sky. This was Elon's cathedral, the place where he had spent thousands of hours working, dreaming, pushing the boundaries of what humans could achieve. The place where he felt closest to his vision of humanity's future among the stars. And now it would be the place where Celeste rested too, a bridge between earth and sky. Between the work he had chosen and the work she had taught him to value. They stood at the base of a rocket that would launch in 2 weeks. It towered above them, white and powerful, a testament to human ambition and engineering. Elon held the largest container of ashes, the one that held most of Celeste's remains. "This is my special place," he said to Rosa and Daniel. "This is where I come when I need to think clearly, when I need to remember why I do what I do. And now Celeste will be here with me every time I come, reminding me, keeping me grounded, making sure I never forget what she taught me." He walked to a small garden area near the launch pad, a patch of ground where native Texas wildflowers grew. It was the only soft, living thing in this landscape of metal and concrete, the only place that felt right. Elon knelt in the wildflowers and began to pour out Celeste's ashes. As he did, he spoke not just to her, but to Rosa and Daniel, to the empty launch pad, to the universe itself. "For 10 years, I thought my work was the most important thing in the world. I thought that building rockets and electric cars and changing transportation was how I would make my mark on history. I thought that going to Mars was the ultimate achievement, the thing that would prove I mattered." Paused, watching the ashes settle among the wildflowers. A butterfly landed nearby, its wings bright blue in the morning sun. "But Celeste showed me something different. She showed me that there are many ways to matter, that helping a little girl paint again is just as important as launching a rocket, that giving a boy his first prosthetic arm can change the world as much as any technology, that being present for one person, really present, is worth more than being famous to millions who don't know you." Rosa knelt beside him, adding her own handful of wildflower seeds to the spot. "May these flowers grow strong and beautiful, just like Celeste's legacy." Daniel did the same, his prosthetic hand carefully scattering seeds. "May everyone who comes here see these flowers and remember that the best technology isn't the kind that reaches Mars. It's the kind that helps people on Earth live better lives." Elon poured out the last of the ashes. The container was empty now. All of Celeste's physical remains were scattered in the 3 places she had chosen: the backyard she loved, the beach where they promised forever, and this launch pad where Earth reached toward the stars. "I'm not giving up on Mars," Elon said quietly. "I still believe humans should explore space, but I'm also not giving up on Earth, on the children who need help, on the work Celeste started. I'm going to do both, Celeste. I'm going to reach for the stars while making sure the people on Earth aren't forgotten. That's what you were trying to teach me all along, wasn't it? That we can do both, that we should do both." He stood slowly, his knees aching from kneeling on the hard ground. He looked up at the rocket towering above them, then down at the wildflowers where Celeste's ashes now rested. "I'll come back here often. I'll tend these flowers. I'll make sure they're always blooming. And every time I launch a rocket, every time I stand here watching it rise towards space, I'll remember you. I'll remember what you taught me. I'll remember that the greatest journey isn't the one to Mars. It's the one from selfishness to compassion, from pride to humility, From thinking you know what matters to understanding what really does. A breeze picked up, rustling through the wildflowers, carrying a few of the ashes into the air. For just a moment in the morning light, they sparkled like stars. Then they were gone, scattered to the wind, becoming part of everything. Rosa stood and put her arm around Elon's shoulders. She's at peace now, and so should you be. You kept your promise. You honored her memory. You became the man she believed you could be. I'm still becoming that man, Elon said. Every day I'm still learning, still trying to be better. That's all anyone can do, Daniel added. Miss Celeste wasn't perfect either. She made mistakes. She struggled, but she kept trying. She kept caring. She kept showing up for the people who needed her. That's what made her special. They walked back to the car together, leaving the wildflower garden behind. In 2 weeks, when the rocket launched, those flowers would feel the rumble of engines powerful enough to escape Earth's gravity. They would witness humanity reaching for the stars. And in their soil would rest a woman who had taught one man that reaching for the stars didn't mean forgetting the ground beneath your feet. 1 year later, Elon stood in a massive new building in Austin. It was the official headquarters of the Celeste Rivera Foundation for Children's Prosthetics. The building was bright and welcoming, with large windows, colorful walls, and play areas for children. It looked nothing like a medical facility, and everything like a place built with love. In the first year, the foundation had helped over 12,000 children across all 50 states. Manufacturing facilities in 5 states were producing prosthetics at costs so low that families who once had no hope could now get help for free. Partnerships with hospitals worldwide were being established. The waiting list that had once held 47 desperate families was now empty, and new referrals were being processed within weeks instead of months. Daniel had become the head of design, leading a team of 15 engineers, half of them former prosthetic users themselves, inspired by Celeste's example. They were creating innovations in prosthetics that were years ahead of anything else available, all designed with the children's real needs in mind. Rosa had officially retired but still came to the foundation 3 days a week to share stories about Celeste, to guide new staff members, to make sure the heart and soul of Celeste's work was never lost in the growth and expansion. Today was special. It was the 1-year anniversary of Celeste's death, and the foundation was hosting a celebration, not of loss, but of legacy. Over 500 people had gathered, families the foundation had helped. Children wearing their prosthetics, running and playing and living full lives, donors who had contributed, staff members who had worked tirelessly. And in the center of the main hall stood a statue. It showed Celeste kneeling beside a child, her hands gentle, her face kind. The child was reaching up to hug her, and both figures were smiling. At the base of the statue was a plaque that read, Celeste Rivera, 1984-2024. She helped 307 children in her lifetime. Because of her example, thousands more will be helped for generations to come. She proved that one person, caring deeply, can change the world. Elon stood before the statue, looking up at the bronze face of the woman he had loved. It was a good likeness. The sculptor had captured her warmth, her kindness, the way she looked at people like they were the most important beings in the universe. Lily approached him, now 11 years old, still wearing her purple and rainbow prosthetic leg. She had grown taller, more confident. She was taking advanced dance classes and dreaming of becoming a professional ballerina. "Mr. Musk," she said shyly. He knelt down the way Celeste always had. "Yes, Lily. I wanted to give you something." She held out a drawing. It showed Celeste with angel wings surrounded by children. At the top, in careful handwriting, it said, "Miss Celeste is watching over us from heaven. She's proud of what you're doing." Elon's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you, Lily. This is beautiful." "You think she can really see us? From heaven?" Lily asked seriously. Elon thought about this carefully. He wasn't a religious man. He believed in science and data and evidence. But he also believed in love, and love was something that couldn't be measured or quantified or fully explained. "I think," he said slowly, "that when someone loves you as much as Celeste loved all of you, that love doesn't disappear when they die. It stays, in the work they did, in the people they helped, in the memories you carry. So yes, in a way, she can see us through all of this." He gestured around the hall full of children and families. "This is her seeing us. This is her being proud." Lily nodded, satisfied with this answer. Then she hugged him and ran off to join her friends in the play area. Marcus approached next, now 19 and preparing to leave for college on his basketball scholarship. "Coach Musk," he said with a grin. Elon had been attending Marcus's games for the past year, offering encouragement and support. "Marcus, are you ready for college?" "Nervous," Marcus admitted, "but excited. And Mr. Musk, I wanted to tell you something. I've decided to major in biomedical engineering. After I play basketball, I want to design prosthetics, like Daniel does, like Miss Celeste did. I want to help kids who are going through what I went through." Elon felt his heart swell with pride. "Celeste would be so proud of you. I'm proud of you." "She changed my life," Marcus said. "Now I want to change other kids' lives. That's the best way I can thank her, by passing it on." "That's exactly right," Elon said. "That's how love works. It multiplies, it grows. It becomes something bigger than any one person." Throughout the afternoon, more children came to talk to Elon. Emma, now 12, showed him her latest straight-A report card, something she said she couldn't have achieved without her prosthetic hand that let her write properly. Miguel performed a song on his guitar, his prosthetic fingers moving across the strings with practiced ease. Sophia presented him with a painting, a portrait of Celeste, made from memory and love. Each child was a living testament to Celeste's work. Each smile was evidence that one woman's dream had become reality. As the celebration wound down and families began to leave, Elon found Rosa standing by the statue, looking up at Celeste's bronze face. "She would have hated all this attention," Rosa said with a smile. "She always wanted the focus on the children, not on herself." "I know," Elon agreed. "But the children insisted on the statue. They wanted people to know who helped them, who started all this." "It's beautiful," Rosa said. "She looks happy." "She was happy," Elon said. "Even when she was sick, even when she was dying, she was happy because she was doing work that mattered. That's the lesson she taught me. Happiness doesn't come from success or fame or money. It comes from knowing you made a difference, from knowing your life had meaning." Rosa turned to look at him. "And has your life had meaning this year, Mr. Musk?" Elon thought about the past 12 months, the children he had met, the families he had helped, the foundation he had built, the work he had dedicated himself to. "Yes," he said simply, "more meaning than all the years before combined. I helped 12,000 children this year. I didn't go to Mars. I didn't launch any revolutionary new products. I didn't make headlines, but I made a difference, a real, tangible difference. And that feels better than anything else I've ever done." "Then Celeste's faith in you was justified," Rosa said. "She knew you just needed to find your way." "She left me a map," Elon said. "Her journal, her letters, her example, all I had to do was follow it. I just wish I'd followed it sooner. I wish I hadn't wasted 10 years. "Don't waste energy on regret," Rosa said gently. "Celeste wouldn't want that. She'd want you to focus on the future, on the children still waiting for help, on the work that's still to be done." Elon nodded. "You're right. There's so much more to do. We're helping 12,000 children a year now, but there are millions who need help worldwide. We need to expand to every country. We need to make sure no child anywhere has to go without a prosthetic because of money." "You'll do it," Rosa said confidently. "Because you're not doing it alone. You have Daniel. You have a team of passionate engineers and doctors. You have families who want to help. You have Celeste's example to guide you. And you have me for as long as I'm able. I couldn't do any of this without you, Rosa. You're the heart of this foundation. You keep us focused on what matters." "I just do what Celeste taught me," Rosa said. "Care about people, show up, be present, the rest takes care of itself." They stood together in comfortable silence, looking at the statue of Celeste. Around them, the last few families were saying goodbye, children's laughter echoing through the building. Outside, the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Elon thought about the clay rocket ships, both halves reunited on his desk in his office here at the foundation. He thought about the oak sapling in the backyard of the blue Victorian house, now 2 feet tall and growing stronger every day. He thought about the wildflowers at the SpaceX launch pad, blooming bright and beautiful every spring. He thought about all the ways Celeste remained present in his life, even though she was gone. In every child helped, in every family's tears of gratitude, In every moment when he chose compassion over ambition, presence over productivity, love over achievement, she had changed him, completely and irrevocably. He was no longer the man who had walked into that house 1 year ago, driven, proud, certain of his own importance. He was someone new, someone better, someone who understood that true greatness wasn't measured in dollars or rockets but in the lives you touched with kindness. "Thank you, Celeste," he whispered, too quiet for Rosa to hear. "Thank you for never giving up on me. Thank you for leaving me a path back to what matters. Thank you for loving me even when I didn't deserve it. I'll spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of your faith." The statue didn't respond, couldn't respond. But in the fading light, in the quiet of the nearly empty building, Elon felt something. Not a ghost or a spirit or anything supernatural, just a sense of peace, of rightness, of knowing he was finally doing what he was meant to do. Celeste Rivera was gone, but her love remained, in the foundation that bore her name, in the thousands of children who could run and play and live fully, in the man who had finally learned to see what truly mattered. Love doesn't end when someone dies. It just transforms. It becomes legacy. It becomes inspiration. It becomes the reason others choose compassion over indifference, action over apathy, presence over distraction. Celeste's love had transformed Elon, and through him, it would transform the lives of millions of children for generations to come. That was her gift. That was her victory. That was her eternal presence in a world she had made immeasurably better just by being in it. And as Elon walked out of the foundation building into the cool evening air, past the laughing children and grateful families, past the statue of the woman who had changed everything, he smiled. Because he finally understood what Celeste had tried so hard to teach him all those years ago. The meaning of life isn't found in the stars we reach for. It's found in the hands we hold along the way, in the children we help, in the love we give freely, in the quiet work done when no one is watching. It's found in showing up, in being present, in caring deeply about people right in front of us, not just the abstract future of humanity. Celeste had lived that truth every single day, and now so would he. One child at a time, one family at a time, one promise kept at a time, forever. We hope this story touched your heart and reminded you that true success is measured by the lives we change, not the wealth we build. Celeste showed us that one person caring deeply can make a world of difference. Now we want to hear from you. Where are you watching this from? Drop your country or city in the comments below. We love connecting with viewers from all around the world. If this story moved you, please hit that like button. It helps us spread these meaningful stories to more people who need to hear them. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you never miss another story about kindness, hope, and the power of love. Let's spread kindness together, one story at a time. Click on the video appearing on your screen right now for another inspiring story that will touch your heart. Thank you for watching, and remember, you have the power to change someone's life today. See you in the next video.